Hello and welcome to the Super Show podcast, a gaming podcast by any other name, but it is called the Super Show. Joining me today is Alex Jones, and hey, guess what? Jonesy and I, we pooped him out, we reconstituted him, molded him in his previous image. None other than Jamie is gracing us today.
Do you know what? It wasn't the most pleasant of experiences. There's other ways I would have rather returned to the fold, but here we are. You know what?
Well,
You have to play with the hand you're dealt, right?
yeah, how did it feel to be munched on, eaten in a non-sexual way?
Do you know what? That's the thing. I'm glad you brought up the sexual element, because some people have a fetish, don't they, where they want to get eaten. And then some people have a fetish where they want to get eaten whole. Like they just want a giant thing to swallow.
Vor.
There you go.
Vor?
Yeah.
Jonesy just had to check his search history quickly.
No,
anyone who's watching this, go check out Vor videos.
Oh,
online,
come on, no.
It's so
We're
weird.
not recommending Vor inside the first video.
So strange.
Okay,
Yeah,
I'm
welcome
not into
back.
Vor. I did not get eaten by these two men out of some kind of like sexual fantasy or sexual desire. That said, it did feel good. And I would do it again.
Nice. 10 out of 10, yeah?
Yeah, and I've got to say, Chris, I did listen to last week's episode, and I fully vouch for your idea to bring Army Hammer in. If he wants to get involved, have a little nibble, he's more than welcome. I hear his schedule's a little bit freer than it was.
Yeah,
a
he's
months
looking
ago,
for
so
work.
looking for work. He can come on board the Super Show.
I think that would be
Looking for
cool,
extra
dude. Like,
voices.
obviously, it's problematic on a number of ways, but how fucking cool having a Hollywood cannibal on our
Chris,
podcast.
you're missing the big idea here. Known cannibals. The first
Known
episode.
cannibals. No.
And we actually get
Remember,
a guest on who's a
remember,
cannibal.
we've got the umbrella term for it now. Easy targets.
Is that the umbrella? I don't
Easy
remember agreeing
targets.
to that. Wow.
Well,
I like the idea of having a podcast we just called Cancelled, and we have everyone on, like whoever's been cancelled that week, we have on.
ooh,
That's actually
Alex Jones. That is a fire suggestion.
If you had a YouTube channel with like millions of subscribers, I'd tell you to do that.
Yeah.
As it
Yeah,
is,
like if you didn't have to worry
6,000,
about
but-
if you don't have to worry about being demonetized or fucking hate crimed or something.
Yeah, exactly. I will say though, before we move on from talking about last week's episode, which I thought you guys did a great job, by the way.
Thank you.
I
The
do-
slowest news week of the year.
I was going to say I do actually have some notes.
Okay.
So,
There we go. Let's hear
But
it.
these are cliff notes.
and if
the cliff
anyone
notes
wants to
of the show.
open up the last week's episode, another tab, maybe just run it alongside these notes.
Yeah. So you got the time
um,
codes.
I'm going to start with time code 0009. I'm joking. The only note, in fact, the only bit of feedback I'll give, and I'll direct it at Jonesy, Rage 2 never has been, isn't, and never will be a good game.
It is fun.
Wow.
It's a fun time.
And what
There you
about
go.
calling Temple of Doom the best Indiana Jones film? Mental.
It is the best Indiana Jones
wrong.
film.
Couldn't be
Go
more
on.
wrong.
Go on.
I might get in trouble if I
That's
elaborate on
Raiders of
my
the Lost
history
Ark.
with Indiana Jones.
It isn't Raiders of the Lost Ark at all. Temple is definitely better than Raiders of the Lost Ark.
Mate, Raiders. Okay.
Jamie probably likes Crystal
Last
Skull.
Crusade and then Temple of Doom. Temple of Doom's fun. Don't get me wrong. Like they're all 5-star films, but that's the ranking.
You are outrageous.
It's not so much that I like Crystal Skull, Jonesy. It's the fact that the Crystal Skull one is the only one I've seen.
Wow.
Oh,
really?
Hold on. Are you shitting me?
No, I'm being
That's
completely
madness.
genuine.
Oh, Jamie, you scumbag. Okay, look, we're a gaming podcast, okay? Scumbags aside. Oh, God, I'm shook, actually, right now. I can't
Well,
believe this.
This
I'm-
is life now. This is reality.
I'm done. I'm walking away.
Well, you can't. You've got to host it. We got to, take things over. We got a lot to cover this week.
For fuck's sakes. Yeah, we do. Thank goodness it has not been a slow news week. So let's get into it. But before we do, just letting everybody know that if you're watching on YouTube, we're available on a podcasting platform of your choice. And if you're listening on Spotify, iTunes, Google Podcasts, I don't know, fucking Audible Podcasts and Deezer and Stitcher and all of that shit, daisy chain ding dongs, there we are available on YouTube. So, if you want to see our gorgeous mugs, see what Jamie looks like as a reconstituted turd, then head on over. That's
Turns out not that different to before. So make of that what you will.
there we go. Worth mentioning, we are also on Paisley Radio, which is an internet radio, paisleyradio.com. So podcast goes out on Fridays. The following Thursday, 10 p.m., we're on Paisley Radio, and it is repeated on Paisley Radio the following week on the Monday. So that, hey, 3 weeks of the same content, can't go wrong.
Hell yeah.
Right. Now, fellas, as Jamie mentioned, there's a lot to cover this week, but I thought we'd start off with something juicy, before we get into the Avengers news and some Steam bans and, hey, even, surprise, surprise, some Cyberpunk stories. I've got news of a delay.
Oh,
and
surprise, surprise.
Yeah, exactly. To no one's surprise, probably. But this one's a little bit interesting. Gotham Knights has officially been delayed to 2022. Now, the reason I say it's interesting is because I fucking completely forgot that it was meant to come out this year.
yeah.
I want to say that when they originally announced it was coming out in 2021, we all said, like, no way.
But then again, they did have that gameplay footage. It didn't look like super polished, but it looked good enough to me.
That was actually one of the reasons why I thought 2021 was plausible. That and the fact that they announced it alongside the announcement of the Suicide Squad game,
which was
Rocksteady
2022.
game. And you kind of thought that, if they were going to 1-2 punch this, then Gotham Knights is surely going to be pretty close to being ready, right?
Yeah. But
apparently not.
Obviously COVID and the delays, etc. And I'd say maybe it's 20% of the reason why they delayed it to 2022, and I'd say maybe the other 80% is exactly what happened to Cyberpunk.
Well, I was going to say, how about we go one step further than what happened to Cyberpunk and just say Cyberpunk in general? How many people are scared right now? How many people don't want to be the next Cyberpunk?
I reckon literally every AAA title.
But for them, it's worse as well, right? Because it's not only Cyberpunk, it's also Marvel's Avengers. So they've got that to look at and to say, wow, we need to make sure. It worried me to make me think that their game probably looked a lot more like Marvel's Avengers than we'd like to imagine.
Yeah, kind of.
It is kind of strange. But yeah, so Gotham Knights pushed to 2022. It potentially disappointing to a few people, but I don't know, man. Like, especially after the Cyberpunk thing, I think, you know what? Delay. Fucking have this game come out on my fucking deathbed in 2032 for all I fucking care. Just as long as it's polished and good and doesn't have bugs and shit. Like, I'm getting tired of this, fellas. I want good shit. All right, I want good, nice, polished shit. There we go. Polished turds. This is the shit episode, I've realised.
I kind of think this is going to get worse, all this sort of delay stuff and this games needing polishes, because reality is games are getting much, much bigger. They still want to be able to turn a profit, and I think it's getting harder and harder. And it seems like it's getting worse. It doesn't seem like it's getting better. And delays don't even seem to save it if you want to look at like the games that have been delayed and then come out in the last sort of year or a couple of years or so. Unfortunately.
This is true. Fellas, I'm worried for my Starfield not coming out this year.
Well, do you know what? I genuinely think it's going to be a make or break kind of 3 months or so, because we're about basically in April now, right? And there are so many games.
Not basically, we are in April.
No, it's the 25th of March right now.
No, we're in April. I'm ready there.
Sorry, future Chris, he's ahead of the game, ahead of time.
Jamie, let me stop you right there. Okay, just a little interjection. Have you seen Time Cop?
No.
Okay, carry on.
What have I seen? I've seen Time Travel. I've seen Back to the Future 1.
Back to the Future.
So you went back.
Have you not even seen 2?
No.
Because in Back to the Future 1, he goes to the past.
Yeah.
Well, I'm spitballing here.
Chris is from the future.
If you can go back, you might as well go forward. But Chris went back to the future. That's the name of the film. So he went.
Yeah, you go back, and then after you go back to the future, which is present. Right?
Yeah. Because they say time is a circle, right? So if you go back far, they absolutely
no one says that.
Jonesy, I've read a lot of fucking Wikipedia articles, my friend. Sit yourself down. They say time is a circle. So if you go back far enough, it's like the globe. Eventually, you dig enough, you get to China. So if Chris goes back far enough in time, he will get to the future. Hence the name of the film, and that's what Doc Brown is all about. He says, Marty, you drive the car fast enough, you do a lap of the world, you're gonna end up going back to the future, but the car disappears. The car disappears. He ends up in the barn and he fucks his mum.
Was it?
I didn't have the sound on, but
that is what happened. But was it Superman 2 where Superman flies around the world backwards? He spins the world backwards. It goes back in time.
Yeah.
And then he speeds it forward again.
Hey, Jonesy, are you making fun of the science? The science is sound. I don't know.
That is one of the most scientifically amazing things I've ever seen.
Are you trying to shit on Zack Snyder? Because I'll have you know that's the same tactic the Flash uses to deliver an urgent warning to Bruce Wayne in Batman vs Superman: Dawn of Justice.
Man,
But Snyder slander thrown around.
I still have to watch the Snyder Cut. It's still in my to-do list. But go on,
So-
Jamie, you were saying something. What were you?
I
what
was
were you
going
on
to
about?
say that, like, Chris, actually, you made a weirdly good point when you said that you almost forgot that Gotham Knights was still around, was still a thing,
Yeah.
because it's been a while since we've seen some of these games. We're now approaching the summer where anything that's even halfway hopeful of a 2021, Christmas 2021 release has to kind of rear its head again, right? This summer,
Totally,
these
yeah.
games have to return. They have to come with trailers. They have to come with gameplay and say, hey, this thing is actually real. It's not vaporware. And it's
Yeah.
weird because even things that should have been out by now, like Far Cry was meant to be out by now in some world, and we haven't even seen that game running. Like,
Yeah.
weird shit is happening.
Or
out
what
there,
about
guys.
the kind of trend where it's like, oh, the single player campaign will release, but then the multiplayer campaign will release at an undisclosed time.
Yeah,
That's
great.
that's just not finishing a game and releasing half a game. That's what I said. It's getting worse. It's not getting better. But
crazy.
they keep coming up with these marketing ways to spin it to make us believe that this is just how things work now.
Yeah.
It's like you go to McDonald's and you say you like buy a Big Mac meal. They give you the fries and you go and sit down and go, sorry, I haven't got my burger. And they're like, yeah, we'll bring it in 10 minutes, mate. And you're like, I want it now.
Yeah.
You're like, no, that's not how this works. You eat that and then you come up and you pay more money and then we bring more food.
True.
Sucks.
Guys, I'm genuinely worried about Starfield. But anyway, I think if we get to say end of July, it will probably know the quantity of what's coming out for the rest of the year, right? More or less. Like
You'd think
give or
that,
take.
yeah.
Give or take.
Yeah.
In that season, if we're not seeing trailers for stuff, I think it's a pretty safe bet that they're not coming out.
Yeah.
Like release trailer kind of thing.
But on the Gotham Knights thing and the Suicide Squad, like how fucking that feels like that was like 4 years ago.
That's lockdown, baby.
The lockdown effect.
Yeah, because
Holy
when
shit.
actually was that Warner Brothers stuff?
It was last year, wasn't it?
Last year, yeah, it was
Do
the
you guys
DC.
remember what month it was? The fandom. The fandom.
It was
fandom.
Yeah, it was the DC fandom.
Where Jonesy and I got stuck on the Belfry.
You got stuck in the Belfry, and Jonesy became the only person on planet Earth to not like the trailer for the Batman.
Oh, hold on, it was December. No, it was August. August, sorry, it wasn't. It was
I was
August.
about to say, like, fucking hell.
I was going to
What's,
say
what's happened?
because December was when Wonder Woman actually came out, and they were still trying to hype up Wonder Woman during
Yeah,
the
that's
fandom.
true. Yeah.
No, it was August. Yeah,
Wow.
August 22nd. Yeah, that was the fandom.
Yeah. But
Interesting.
interestingly enough, fellas, our old pal Jason Schreier has got, well, he's put some fuel to the fire and some urine to the tramp. That is the idea that games are going to keep on getting delayed, and 2021 is not going to be a great year for gaming.
Yeah, when he tweeted this news out, he actually did it in, I think they're called a quote tweet, where like you take another tweet and you tweet on top of it. It's like
It's a quote retweet, I'll have you know.
There we go. I'm glad we've got a social media expert in our midst. He
It's
quote
it's like your nan is trying to talk about something.
Yeah.
Jonesy, I'm very technological.
Techno-ovo?
I'm very techno-ovo.
Okay.
I'm new tech in Espanol. He quote retweeted. Sorry, he quote retweeted the announcement that Hogwarts Legacy was getting delayed, and I think that was back in January. And he said something like, "Get ready for more delays." And although we had to wait till March for the next significant one to happen, it seems like he's trying to keep with the shtick of, "Hey, big games are going to get shifted out of 2021." So
yeah, man. I think maybe your annual franchises are going to be relatively safe bastions. You know, I don't foresee Activision delaying COD, regardless of what fucking state it's in, because it makes no sense. Because people are going to buy it regardless. So
the COD leaks, for what it's worth, I didn't include them in our sort of topics for discussion because I don't think people care that much. But the COD leaks have started for this year.
Of course they have, because we know what the news cycle is like. We've been through enough CODs to know what happens.
It's March.
Yeah, some basketball player or NFL player is going to wear a hat with the fucking logo on it in one of his interviews, and he'll be like, "Oh shit, there it is."
Some YouTube channel are going to get on a conference call and get told about what the game's going to be before the game radically changes to something else entirely.
Exactly. It's a tale as old as time, really. But on that, I'm really looking forward to Infinite Warfare 2.
Wow.
Do you know what? Infinite Warfare was a damn good time. I enjoyed that game.
Infinite Warfare was a good time. Interesting.
There you go.
Interesting. I'll tell you. We'll talk about it afterwards.
We'll talk about it afterwards. All right. Well, let's jump into comments of the week then, shall we?
Yeah.
And this is an interesting one. It's topical. All right, for the moment, and it comes from Ginger Lou, and this was, how could you eat Jamie? We never got the stretch. We never got the stretch goal of the body pillow. Great podcast as always, even with a man down. Jamie.
I have a question about about Jamie being eaten and reconstituted, because is it still Jamie? It's like the teleporter question, right? If you get teleported and you get destroyed over here and recreated over there, could even say that, recreated over there, are you still technically the same person? So is this Jamie 2.0?
Yeah. It's like the Fools and Horses broom gag, isn't it? Where you replace the head of a broom and you replace the stick of the broom. Is it still the same broom? Exactly. It's your broom. In terms of a possession and ownership, it's the same, but is it the same?
Or the Italian food quandary, which I'm sure you guys have seen has taken the internet by storm, which is, I'll ask you, Jonesy, for example, if I took a pizza and put it on top of another pizza, how many pizzas do I have?
2 pizzas.
God.
Exactly. But if I took a lasagna and put it on top of another lasagna, how many lasagnas do I have?
1 epic lasagna.
There you go. See, this is the thing. How many lasagnas do I have?
Here you go. It depends. Because when you make a lasagna, you usually go like, some people go white sauce, I go cheese sauce. So I'm going minced pasta, cheese sauce, minced pasta, cheese sauce. But when I get to the top layer, then I'm dumping a whole load of grated cheese on that mother. So if I've done that twice and there's a layer of grated cheese in the middle, then technically I think I've got 2 lasagnas.
But what if you take that lasagna, the first lasagna, you put it upside down? All right, so the crusty cheese is on the bottom. And then you put the other lasagna on top, so the crusty cheese on the top. And then you've got a lasagna cheeseburger, basically.
That sounds like a really good time.
At this point, I'm just glad I framed my webcam the way I did so that Ginger Lou and the other people watching can't see the crusty layer of cheese that's actually right beneath the bottom of the frame.
Wow. Okay.
But you can see I'm just two Jamie lasagnas inverted into each other.
2 Jamie lasagnas. But yeah, then what about that stretch goal, boys? Body pillows.
I don't see why we couldn't have done it anyway if Jamie was dead. We could have just done it in his honor.
Yeah, in truth, the actual plan was if we didn't manage to reconstitute him, because we took that feces, my feces, Jonesy's feces, we mushed them together. Some of it
I love the idea that someone out there has never heard this podcast before, is listening for the first time, and for the first half an hour we've been making a joke about something we said last week about eating and shitting out Jamie and squishing him back together.
That's how you build community, Alex Jones. You know,
if you like
include
this,
people in the joke.
You'll love our Discord.
Yeah, but yeah, so you know, some. Wow.
A lot. Yeah, so remember to check out the Vor channel.
Oh God, why did you say that? I mean, you know they're going to request the Vor channel, and Jonesy is of course going to fucking oblige. But yes,
I oblige.
The idea was that once we reconstituted you, Jamie, and molded you into a poo golem, an excremental, as it were, that once we had finished the goat sacrifice to bring you back to life, if that didn't work, then your poo statue of a body would be a stretch goal.
Oh wow! Like an individual could buy it, or that you would release like miniatures?
Do you want your own Jamie Golem made of poo?
Wow! And I guess these operate almost as kind of like mini voodoo dolls, like they're just a small representation of me.
Yeah. If ever you wanted to imbue yourself with the properties of Jamie, you could swallow a piece of the
No, we're not going to condone that. Let's go back to the body pillows, if anything.
What is happening to this podcast?
Hey, I told you fellas before we hit record, I wanted spicy.
This is spicy. This is just fucking weird. This is just going a whole different
It's called
direction.
scatological, I'll have you know. But yeah, I don't know. Body pillow stretch goals. It's a bit of a joke. It's also something
I
that
would love
would have
one.
been cool to do.
A Jamie body pillow.
We could do it. It at one point. But I think we got so much to do on our own before we even get to body pillows that like it's a little bit.
I miss the fucking podcast last week. I can't even sit down to these things sometimes, let alone sculpt a perfectly distributed and even body pillow with my exact measurements.
Well, I'll tell you what, though,
Yeah.
if we did make a body pillow and you weren't available one week, Jamie, we could put the body pillow in your place. So you could just sit it in your chair. We could record it for the full length of time. And
Maybe.
it would be like you were there.
What if we made
cracked
it so the body pillow actually weighed the exact same amount as me, and we actually ended up getting lawsuits on our hands because
Yes.
people just died. Like people just crushed to death.
Smothered.
They couldn't get out of. They couldn't get up. I have
God.
fallen asleep on somebody's arm, and they genuinely couldn't get out. And they couldn't wake me up. They had to put their fingers in my mouth to wake me up. True
Oh,
story.
your mouth. Okay.
No,
So-
okay, no. Do you know what? This is not true. Is this like an ex-girlfriend, I'm guessing?
Yes.
This is some weird ex-girlfriend with a very strange fetish who was doing shit she shouldn't have done when you were asleep, and she came up with the worst excuse ever, which was that she was stuck under you and she couldn't get her arm out, so she had to force
No, but
her hand
I don't-
into
I
your
don't-
mouth.
It's not like I remember waking up and having a fist in my mouth or something like that. I have no recollection of the act itself. I was just
Wow.
told
Dude.
that's what had to be done.
There are services that you can call. After this, we'll give you a number. You can call them. She's obviously done some weird shit to you while you were asleep.
Oh,
Just-
you should hear about the shit she did while I was awake.
Wow. And if
Don't
you want
know
to hear
if
about that, the After
Ooh.
Dark. No, the Full Frontal.
The Full Frontal. Yeah, well, I'm glad you brought up Full Frontal because that is our Patreon exclusive podcast. It used to be called After Dark. And I think we're going to record the next one tomorrow, if I'm not mistaken, fellas. Is that right?
Sounds
Yes.
like it at the moment.
Hell yeah. So if you would like to get on that, see our back catalog, and get ready for when the next episode airs, exclusive to Patreon, head on over to patreon.com/supershow. Check out our tiers. For as little as $2, you can get access to our Discord server where we are on constantly. $5 gets you the blocked off content, which is the Full Frontal or the After Dark, as well as I think there was like a couple of spoiler casts, like our Last of Us Part 2 spoiler cast is about 3.5 hours long, which we recorded last year.
And we did it on the hottest day.
On the hottest fucking day on the oh my god. But yeah, and then of course, hey, one of the perks, you get your name called out in the podcast, and I'm gonna read out some names now, fellas, because these people, they really kind of keep the lights on, the computers powered, the webcams running, the microphones kind of, sound checked. I'm kind of running out of steam here, but you get the idea, all right? They make the Super Show what it is today. I am, of course, talking about Aaron Cameron, Athletic Gravy, Shell Shock, Hacksaw Book Read, Jesper Camdal Nielsen, Javella Cujo, Leo Merger, Lonnie Thompson, Magic Grits, Mindful Pig, Nathan Pierce, Pastors Guild, Scary Omen, Starfall Kid, Zach _Cream. That's right, I said the underscore this time. And Manuel Guerrero, Peaswad, and the Dude Abides are our big boy patrons. They are the ones that kind of each week tickle my balls enough to give me the strength, fellas, that to get out here and present for you fellas. Host it.
Hell yeah.
Get shit done. Bring the spiciness. So thank you one and all. If you are only contributing $2, of course, you have our eternal gratitude. If you're just watching this, listening to it, liking, subscribing, leaving an algorithmic comment, we appreciate it all.
One of my favorite algorithmic comments at the moment is people just commenting, "This is for the algorithm," which is
Yeah.
thank you for those, because you
Hey.
you didn't need to do that, but thank you very much for doing it. It all helps.
It fucking helps for
Yeah.
sure. Okay, guys, look, we're a gaming podcast. Might not seem it, but we are. Which means, really, that as gamers, we should be playing games. Am I right?
You're right.
I am right. Of course, I'm right. Damn right, I'm right.
We don't,
so
but we should be.
Well, we try to. Fucking hell. So I want to hear what you guys have been playing, but before we do that, I'm going to mix it up and just tell you what I've been playing, because I'm very excited this week that's gone by. I've had a good one this week, all right? Because
Nice.
I've been playing some Apex Legends. I've been getting some wins, which is surprising. Not because of me, but in spite of me. So,
I've actually been watching some of that.
yeah, so I've been streaming it on twitch.tv/hotpanic. It's a fun time, man. I'm enjoying it so much more than I thought I would in comparison to Warzone. Like, because I enjoyed Warzone, right? Like, I like Warzone, but I just, I don't know. Maybe it's the time that I'm kind of like into it now after playing Titanfall on stream. and the movements and what have you. But Apex is really cool. I'm really enjoying it. Season 8 is cool. They got some interesting changes to the formula. I like it. I like it a lot. I've also been playing some Dota 2, getting back into it. And the reason is, fellas, because the Dota anime is now available on Netflix.
Oh,
And I've
is
watched
it?
Yeah, it came out today.
I'm all over it. I've already watched it. I've already watched the whole season.
That's a fucking lie.
Yep, it's a lie.
I've watched 2 episodes. It started at 7 a.m. GMT today, as the time of recording on Thursday. I will probably watch the rest of it before the weekend is out. So far, so good. The animation is really cool. Story
Nice.
seems interesting. I don't know how much you'd get from it if you're not a Dota fan, but I don't think you need to be a Dota fan to kind of... It's just like it's a fantasy anime, right? With dragons and fucking and fighting and shit. So
Fucking, you say?
there is some fucking in it, yeah.
Anime titties?
Not explicit. Not explicit.
Ah.
Maybe, I don't know. I haven't seen any yet in the 2 episodes. But yeah, so that's cool. So an interesting thing is Dota notoriously does not kind of market itself. There's no ads for, hey, come play Dota, this, that, the other. They only really kind of market to themselves within the Dota client. So if you're a fan of Dota, you know what's going on. There's new patches, whatever. But they've never really tried to gain an additional audience by doing advertising. And this is, you could almost say that's the first time that they're marketing the game to an outside set of people. And what better way to do it than Netflix? So on the back of that, they're hoping that, hey, people are going to watch it on Netflix, and then they're going to go and try and play the game. So on the back of that, what Valve have done is they have improved the new player experience as of today in the Dota client with a lot more tutorials, a lot more kind of like newcomer friendly aspects to it. So that's pretty cool. It's about time as well, because that game is fucking hard to pick up. Jonesy knows.
I was just thinking, I'm not sure there's a lot they can do to make that more friendly. It's still going to, at the end of the day, be what it is. So,
Well, Jonesy, I'll tell you what.
interested to see.
Yeah, this could be an interesting thing for next week. If you are so inclined, if you try out the new tutorials that they've got on there and whatever they've got to try and help newcomers, and then tell us if it makes any difference to you.
I will. I'll have a look because I played the tutorials before, so I know what was there before. So I'd be interested to see what they've changed up and what they've done differently.
Yeah,
I'm going to guess it doesn't make that much of a difference.
Yeah, guess what? A hard game is still a fucking hard game.
Yeah, exactly.
But other than that, we're playing a little bit of Loop Hero in between, things to do here and there. It's become my hop in, hop out game. Get in, do a loop, get out. That's how it is. But then, in my document, I've just written here chips.
Yeah, I just
Because,
presumed that you had chips for dinner one night this week and you were very excited about it, which is why it's in all caps with an exclamation mark.
Chips in the non-Britishism of saying, I'm talking about crisps here. Because Jamie, you and I had a very interesting conversation yesterday about crisps. Because I've been going on a...
Wait, sorry. I don't mean to interrupt.
Yes, we're bringing this up.
You're bringing up your crisps in the podcast.
Do you know what? I'm not that surprised because that WhatsApp group was going mad with Chris's appreciation for his crisps that he was been nibbling all week.
Probably the most messages you've ever sent in a 10-minute period, all about crisps.
This is true. Listen, I'm a crisp fiend. I fucking love crisps.
Oh, sorry,
chips.
Chops.
But yeah, it's because I went to the local co-op and they had a whole bunch of flavors, and I, instead of getting the usual.
Can we talk about Vor again?
Oh my god,
it's kind of like boring, right? I guess if the chips are little people.
So what? Let me go on. I'll buy it. What flavors did you buy, Chris?
I'll tell you what, Alex Jones. I got myself, so instead of the usual Doritos, fucking chili heat wave, which I do like. That's a personal favorite of mine. I got Walker's Max Double Crunch KFC Zinger flavor. And those were pretty good. I also got Walker's Max Strong Hot Chicken Wing flavor. Now that one, it's interesting. You eat it, and the flavor you get is like the greasiness of a corner chicken shop. Not necessarily pleasant, but not unpleasant either. It's got its place in your palate. You're like,
right?
Okay.
And
then it kind of builds up a little bit of heat. It wasn't so great. It was average at best. The KFC Zinger one, much better. but I was blown away, and it's the reason why I feel I have to kind of bring up my chip obsession, because I then tried the Walker's Max Strong jalapeno and cheese flavor, and let me tell you, that shit is the BOMB. The be all and end all, the alpha and the omega, my new favorite chip. All hail the fucking Walker's Max Strong jalapeno and cheese. If you're
These
able to
names
get it,
are
go and fucking get it.
Those names are getting ridiculous. Like, Jesus Christ.
Yeah.
It's starting to sound
I
like fighting games.
Yeah, exactly.
I can't wait for Walker's Max Strong Jalapeno and Cheese Alpha Turbo EX edition.
Yeah. The interesting thing is, just to, to put a cap on this crisp talk, that Walker's is not generally known as a good chip brand. It's almost like the everyman chip brand. It's
the
the
Lay's,
lowest,
right?
Yeah, kind of,
territories?
but they're worse than Lay's. Like Lay's in South Africa are really nice, like really good quality.
I thought it was the
etc.
same thing. I thought Walker's was just a different name.
Dude, I
for the
could
same
hold up.
brand.
I could hold up a normal Walker's crisp and I could see through it. That's like ridiculous. Paper
I'd
thin.
say Lay's and Walker's. I don't know if they're exactly the same, like James, but I wouldn't be surprised.
Oh, they're
if
meant
they
to be the
weren't.
same. They're meant
I
to
wouldn't
be the
be
same.
Right, because they seem very similar.
Yeah.
But then also you're saying like they're not that good. They're the everyman, but that's just because they're so popular, right? They're like the most popular crisp.
Yeah, they are. But what I'm saying is they're the lowest common denominator, right? Like there are better crisps for the same amount of money, but Walker's
If you
is
want
just
to play it safe,
so prominent. Exactly, that's what it is. It's kind of a familiarity. It's a safety thing. It's the lowest common denominator. It's inoffensive. You're never going to be like, you'll be like, this is good.
do you know what I don't like? Crisps.
Wow. Well,
You can put that out there.
you know what I don't like? People that don't like crisps.
Or
So-
chups, as you call
Chups.
them.
Listen, I think it's great, and I think you should everyone, get your hands on some of these jalapeno cheesy chips because they're fucking good.
I'm not a fan of the spicy crisp. I've got to be honest. They're I love spicy food.
That was my biggest concern as well.
Spicy crisps are not
Yeah.
not where it's at for me. I don't like those chili heatwave Doritos. I think they're horrible.
Oh, come
Oh,
on.
but
no,
this is just crazy talk.
If you can,
Like,
can you get a rat? Is there a bag where you get like you get the cheesy ones, the cool original, and you get the heatwave in one bag, right? It's like a triple threat bag.
Oh, yeah, I think so. Yeah.
If I get the
one,
chili,
but like completely mixed.
I think they do. They
I think
did
there
they not
was
do
an
that?
addition at one
I think
stage.
there was an
like
addition
that, yeah.
of that. But
Never
no,
seen that in my life.
if I got the chili heatwave, I'd like throw it away. It's disgusting.
Oh, it's the best Doritos flavor, dude. Absolute best Doritos flavor.
I think they
Mad.
might have done. I think they might have done a roulette one where like
Right.
one in every 10 Doritos was like ludicrously spicy.
Oh, yeah, like a ghost pepper one or something.
And they did occasionally these like blended ones where it was like one. It was meant to be one spicy flavor and one cool flavor, so it'd be like half chili and half guacamole or something like that.
Oh, yeah, I remember
Right,
those.
right.
These.
Yeah.
Now we've gone crisp crazy, crisp
Listen,
crazy.
the Crispy King is here, okay? We're doing the Crisp podcast next week. So,
Crispy King. For anyone that doesn't know, Chris answers the phone without fail by saying "Chris speaking," but it just sounds like Crispy King. So it became the Crispy King.
Yeah.
Crispy King.
It's like, hello, Chris speaking.
Yeah.
Well, anyway,
Oh, God,
fellas, that's what I've been
do you know what?
playing.
It's been
Nothing-
depressing how long it's been since I'd heard that.
Well,
18
yeah,
months.
because you're not around when my phone rings for me to answer it. So,
How do you know?
oh shit.
Or Jamie could just call you to hear it. Then he'd get to hear you say it.
Oh, but you have
Fuck
to
it,
call from a private number.
I'll call you right
Alright.
now.
He'd have to withhold his number.
No, I'm joking. I'm not going to call you.
But yeah, hey, hopefully soon, fellas, we do some hot wings, some non-chip hot wings, some real life hot wings, IRL, in the flesh, see each other. That'll be good. But anyway, yes, that's what I've been playing. Nothing overly interesting. Known quantities: Apex, Dota, Loop Hero. Been watching Dota Dragon's Blood. Been eating lots of crisps. What have you guys been up to?
I'll jump in, I guess, and say that I made a bit of a mistake in the past 2 weeks, similar to the
Oh.
mistake I made before, which is that, remember how I played Super Mario 3D World and Sackboy: A Big Adventure kind of at the same time?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And probably fell off both of them twice as fast as I would have otherwise as a result.
Yeah, okay, I can see that, yeah.
I kind of did that again this week with two open world action games that are, admittedly, though, completely different. And if
Okay.
anything, how different they are is kind of the reason why I'm talking about them both. One of them, I want to shout out to Red Dead Redemption 2, which I picked up on PC.
Oh, okay, yeah.
Played it
Because
on
you
PS4. Right?
you enjoyed it.
I enjoyed it a lot, and the reason I wanted to go back to it was not to play the story again or anything like that. I'm kind of not over that story, but I've seen it, I've experienced it. I don't need that in my life again. It was because I was watching someone stream it, and they were just hunting and just like wandering around. I was like, actually, I want to do that. I want the laid back, slow West Red Dead Redemption 2
Lockdown
experience.
has put you to a point where you just want to be in the outside, just being outside.
Kinda.
Yeah,
Well, like,
understandable, mate. Totally understandable.
The weird thing about Red Dead Redemption 2, right? And I get like not everyone feels this way about it, and it's flawed in that sense. But I'm one of those weirdos that I follow the pace that it sets. If it wants me to walk, I'm happy to walk. If it wants me to see every single skinning animation, I'll sit there. I don't mash a button to try and make it go faster in the hope that one day it will actually happen, like checking the fridge over and over again, hoping food will appear. You can't skip those animations. You have to live with them, and I kind of do. And I like that pace when I'm in the mood for it. And I was just in the mood for it. So turns out that's still a...
Again,
I've got to be careful what I say, because some people are going to ridicule me when I say shit like this. But I think in the wake of games like, hey, fuck it, Cyberpunk.
Yeah.
Red Dead Redemption 2, for a game that's over 2 years old now, and more specifically Red Dead Redemption 2's open world, is a marvel. It is... I still am consistently stunned by what it looks like and the entertainment and the joy it provides me.
Ooh. The joy. Look at this guy.
Yeah, no, I think
that's
there's
fair,
something
dude.
very special about that game. Beyond a lot of the things that a fair amount of people don't like, and that's completely justified. There are some things I don't like about it either. Some things they need to change. Rockstar. But yes, the reason that Red Dead Redemption 2 was kind of relevant as well was because it completely contrasted with the fact that I've been playing some Watch Dogs Legion. Which
Great game.
I
say great game. Enjoyable game. Let's go.
Wow. Okay. I don't remember. Had you played it before or
first time completely fresh.
Okay. Yeah. I thought. Okay. Yeah.
I'm intrigued. What did you think?
Yeah. What's the Jamie take on Watch Dogs Legion?
I don't remember when you came down on this, Jonesy, when you played it last year, but I remember there was some conversation when the game came out of like, what is the tone of this game meant to be? Because some of the cutscenes and story elements and themes were quite dramatic and dark and heavy-handed, whereas some of the gameplay elements and moment-to-moment writing and occasional character appearances seemed very jovial and lighthearted in a way that some people thought clashed, right? Like, I don't remember how you ended up feeling about that.
I actually came down on the side that I think that they did a really good job of injecting some lightheartedness and humor, because otherwise, I mean, you said it was quite could be quite a serious game. It is insanely dark. If they didn't add in the humor, it is a downright like it's mentally brutal. Some of the things you deal with in that game are like poor people being harvested for their organs. You deal with like the police state torturing individuals, and it would be a horrible, brutal experience if it wasn't for kind of how ludicrous some of the characters and some of the situations and some of the just everything else in that game is.
Yeah, I completely agree. And then I played it. And this
Hold
game...
on, but before you get into it, I think it's worth reminding the listeners that you really liked Watch Dogs 2.
Yes, I did actually. Yeah.
Yeah. So like there is a precedent there for you to kind of go in being this is my shit.
I'm prepping this like to be like some fucking shit show where I'm going to shit all over it. I'm having a good time playing Watch Dogs Legion. I just think it is goofy as fuck. I think it's the dumbest fucking game maybe ever made. Where like the first 15-20 minutes, the tutorial, you're basically playing as James Bond storming the Houses of Parliament trying to prevent bombs going off. He gets, spoiler alert, very dramatically killed on the roof of the Houses of Parliament, at which point DedSec, the hacker group, get framed as kind of like a terrorist organization that caused the biggest terrorist attack in the history of Europe, probably, if we're being honest. They never say the actual like death statistics, but based on what they blew up and when, you have to imagine pretty catastrophic. And you have to lead the revolution and convince people that actually this hacker group weren't responsible and the good guys. I started off doing so by recruiting the first member of the new version of DedSec, a 53-year-old Eastern European football hooligan, and I picked him solely because he had a wrench that he whacked people with. So all of a sudden, this like, he's got some weird backstory where he might be an illegal immigrant, but his employers are holding his fucking immigration papers or something like that. So DedSec help him, and then all of a sudden I'm in some underground lair in a pub, and he immediately knows how to hack everything. 53-year-old football hooligan. He's just going up to like. Some woman leaves him a voice message like, "Oh, go and restart Bagley, our super AI." He's like, "Yeah, I'm just going to pop off to the server farm and hold triangle for 3 seconds." And then, do you remember how people described a phenomenon in GTA 5 where, because there were 3 protagonists, they actually found that at times their gameplay behaviors mimicked those of the behaviors of the characters themselves. People would switch to Trevor to go crazy.
Yeah, I did.
Watchdog's
absolutely
lead,
did that.
yeah, exactly. That's a kind of a weird thing that happens. So then the question gets asked, like, what happens when you're playing someone with no identity, no personality? And the answer for me was I just didn't care. So I was like driving along the pavement and killing hundreds of people. I was basically playing it as a Saints Row game. I was like, and then you've got this weird thing where everyone's being profiled, including people who are already in DedSec. So go and check this football hooligan's profile, and it's on the right-hand side. It's just like, killed this person, killed that person. It's like tracking every kill I have, because every single person is has a name and a personality and could be recruited. Second guy I get is also Eastern European. Sounds like Borat to such an extent that I recorded a clip of him talking because I couldn't believe it. And he wears high heels. Then it gave me a bunch of St. Patrick's Day stuff, like a bright green suit. So I changed him into a bright green suit. He can hack really quick. Like,
have you got to the point? Because I definitely got to a point where I kind of had cannon fodder, and I had the players that I liked, because I'm playing it with. I haven't actually finished it yet. I've got a little bit more to do. I don't think I've got that much to do, but I've kind of got my cannon fodder members of my team. Because people don't know. I can't remember how many you can have. How many is it? Like 20 people in your team or something like that?
No, I've only got like 5 or 6 at the moment.
Okay, but I've got certain people that I don't care about, I don't really like. There's like, I've got some soccer mum who's a bit of she's not very nice. So if ever I do something where there's a risk of dying, because I've got permadeath on, I just send her in, and then if she dies, I use someone else I don't like. Because I've got like an assassin and a hitman and like a stunt woman that I really like, and so I keep those people. I try and make them safe so that they don't die. So
I don't have permadeath on, so maybe I don't. Right. That's why I don't care about it. I was just experimenting with stuff like you have to recruit a construction worker as part of the story, like fairly early on, and I was like, oh, what happens if these guys fight? So the construction workers, for what it's worth, also have wrenches. So as soon as he got recruited, the guy who recruited me, the Eastern European guy, the second one, the one who wears high heels, who sounds like Borat, was stood right next to me. So I whacked him with my wrench, and he ran away. And now every time I check his profile, it just says assaulted by, Matt Smith or whatever it was, and it's in red text. And that's going to stay in his profile forever. So it's like I decreased his opinion of the rebellion group he works for, because he went and hired a construction worker to help him out, and he whacked him over the head with a wrench.
Seems fair enough.
I hacked a building on top of Buckingham Palace. I keep putting up these like really cringy, like, "We will not obey, we're gonna fight" posters up all over the wall. I got a guy in my clan now who's like James Bond, and I went to Chinatown and just shot everyone in the head.
Wow, okay.
Anyone who wondered when Saints Row 4 was coming out, like, I think it might have already happened, and we just didn't realise it was called Watchdog's Legion.
Watchdog's Legion. Jeez.
There's a weird thing, is that one of the things that I found odd in Legion is it gives you access to the whole place as like a sandbox quite early on in the game. Like because I thought it'd be quite a while before you could sort of hack drones that you can ride and go wherever you want. But it's quite early on, like, and you can experience a lot of that London area, like, map pretty quickly. But yeah, it's like you said, it's very wacky, tied to some very serious subject matter, which can feel a bit disjointed.
I guess, that's how I'd sum up everything I've tried to say, really.
The voice acting is hilarious.
Oh, so if we were going to be like a little bit more critical, like, I'd say, like, I think the writing and the voice acting is often like very bad. Yeah. Even for Ubisoft open world standards, it's very bad.
Funny that when I said, look at all these trailers where they go, all right, love.
You get the same voice again,
except
as well.
They modulate it. And it's like, oh, well, this guy's got to have a deeper voice, so we can modulate we have 10 voice actors modulated to 100 different performances.
But then the problem is you meet so many different people during the course of the game. You just keep bumping into the same voices, and it will just be in a completely different person. So it can seem quite
weird.
odd.
Also, very strange
weird.
when you get like a black character who seems to have what sounds like an extremely white voice, and you're like, was that a mistake, or am I just like really bad at reading voices, hearing voices? I don't know. If I was going to be more like talk about the game itself, I think the gunplay is underwhelming. I think the hacking is still fun in the same way it was in Watch Dogs 2. Taking a car and telling it to like drive into someone is the funniest thing you'll like.
Yeah.
I've been cackling playing this game at times, just driving cars into people.
Driving down the road and doing what's the film? Is it Evan Almighty or the Bruce Almighty, where you can drive down a road and you can just send cars in front of you left and right to just get through traffic really quickly.
That shit's good. But then like a lot of the scenarios can be resolved in similar ways. A lot of things of just like bouncing between cameras, priming traps, and then sending a spider bot in sometimes if there's event system. The gunplay, I think, is underwhelming, and I think that's represented in the very limited amount of weapons and what you can do to the weapons. This is not a game that's really designed to be played as a third-person shooter. I think the driving is a little bit too light, and I sometimes end up like oversteering a lot and crashing into things and crashing into people and getting thrown from my motorbike. I think the city is sometimes too compressed, and you lose the London feeling and everything feels like it's on top of itself. There's a lot I kind of don't like about that game in theory, to the point where when I first played it, I played it for like 1 or 2 hours and thought genuinely, should I stop now and just play Immortals Phoenix Rising and come back to this in 6 months? I've ended up sticking with it, but it's a weird beast. But
it's very repetitive. I don't know if you've come into like too much of that, but a lot of the mission structures and you've got to go here and do this, and you'll be like, oh, this is exactly the same mission that I've done before.
Yeah, didn't you have to like get rid of a car and driving it off into the Thames or something?
Like three or four times.
Yeah.
It was so this guy, we're gonna get him by stealing his car, and you steal it, and then the person that comes over the phone and goes, you know what, I've got a great idea, crash that car in the Thames. And then you do it, and I'm like, okay, that was quite fun. And then about 5 minutes later, I think being unlucky, I did a mission type, and it was like, I got a great idea, let's crash his car into the Thames. And I'm like, I've heard this one before.
Can you imagine if that was real life and you go to the South Bank and you're like visiting the Thames, while there's just all these cars just like fucking floating about, bobbing.
But it happens when you do end up just sort of going to, like Jamie said, you'll be priming sort of traps and going from camera to camera, but often there'll be exactly the same mission structure. So there'll be someone knelt down on the top floor of a building, and you've got to go and free them. And like Jamie said, the government have got your records, so you need to get your spider-bot in there and do whatever. And they can get very samey, but no, I had fun with it. I thought it was an enjoyable game.
I think it's enjoyable. It's just
kind of stupid at the same time. Yeah.
And the thing I'll give it props for is that, hey, it's a Ubisoft open world game, also the third game in a series, and they have built a game around a really interesting and occasionally innovative central conceit in the players anyone idea. I don't think it lends itself very well to the game, but I think the fact that they built that system and that it's occasionally as detailed and elaborate as it is kind of neat, and like I said, I give them props for that. Because that's not what they're doing with their other franchises.
Yeah, shout out Far Cry.
Well, I hope fucking hell, man. I hope there's something new in Far Cry. Because Valhalla was a slog.
You know what Far Cry 6 is going to be? It's going to be like God of War, where the kid is actually like your Atreus.
Right, like the little kid from the trailers.
Yeah.
Maybe.
The young Vars or whatever it is. But anyway, look, that's way too much time spent on Watch Dogs Legion. Anything else?
Well, not after you just fucking game-shamed me.
I think Watch Dogs Legion was a weird one, though, I would say, because when it came out, I think we talked about at the time, it was almost like they sort of hid it. It was almost like they came out, they were pushing it for a long time. It
got delayed so many times.
Yeah, but then when it actually came out, there wasn't much fanfare, and it sort of came out, and Valhalla came out a month after, and it was just a bit of a weird one for me. And I said, played it and then enjoyed it. And was like, what? They kind of did a weird thing where they were shouting about this for a long time, and then just kind of went, oh, it's come out now. No one knows it's come out. And it was weird for me. But yeah.
Yeah. get ready for more getting more Ubisoft to do that at least one more time when that fucking Rainbow Six thing eventually sneaks out inside the next
the
6
quarantine
months.
thing.
Yeah, that game keeps leaking. People have
Man.
been in playtests for it in the last week or two. That is one they're just gonna fucking slide out under the door and hope nobody notices.
Yeah, it's actually out now. You didn't realize it. You can go play.
Yeah, exactly.
Can you imagine? Okay, but yeah, all right then. Jonesy, what have you been playing?
Do you know what? For me, as Jamie's been talking about some older games that he's been replaying, or just some older games in general, for me, it's been more replaying this week as well. I've been smashing out some more Rocket League. I think it was about a month ago now, I think, that I jumped back into Rocket League, and I've been having a good time with it, and been playing a lot with people on the Discord. Yesterday, for the first time since I got back onto it, played a bit of Jamie as well, which was good.
Nice.
Been playing a bit of Peaswad and Shell Shock. Doing a bit of voice
from the
chat
Discord?
From the Discord,
yes.
bit of voice chat through our Discord, because Discord is a fantastic platform in which you can communicate with other people. But I'm sure we'll talk about that a bit later on. Although one thing that has struck me about Rocket League still, like after I talked about it last week, and I think Jamie and I were talking about it a little bit yesterday, is the level of players and the way the skills have changed that game. It's come a long way since like that game first came out. There are some incredible players in there that I cannot keep up with. But do you know who was being incredible yesterday? Was Jamie with a few epic saves in our games. So I'll give him a shout out. The goalkeeper extraordinaire. But
MVP.
Absolutely, you were MVP, I think, in pretty much every game we played. So yeah, nicely done.
Decent.
And then off the back of well, not just off the back of it, but partially off the back of Square Enix Presents, which was on last week, just after we actually recorded. I watched that, and I'd already kind of decided that I wanted to hop back into Marvel's Avengers and play the new version, but that sort of solidified it for me, and I decided to jump in and experience that game in 60 frames a second, and also the high quality mode, which they put out. So I think that actually came out last Thursday, I believe, after we
I think it was the same day as the Presents live stream. Yeah.
And time was not kind to me, as I sort of said to Jamie before that. I think I'll end up playing in the high quality mode just because some of the menus and that were looking pretty nasty on the PlayStation 5 in the 60 frames a second mode. Turns out in that game, when you switch between the two, there is no comparison, and you need to play that game at 60 frames a second. It is it's almost a completely different experience. The quality is not necessarily noticeable. There's some times when you can notice like the checkerboarding, and you can notice that it's sort of the resolutions are dipping a bit in sort of crazy combat situations. But just for the flow and the 60 frames, it's not even comparable. And you can't then switch back to 30 frames a second because it feels horrible.
Can we, before you carry on with that, can I ask you, because you're both playing it on PlayStation 5, right?
Yes.
All right. PlayStation 5, one thing it's missing that the Xbox at least has trumped it, shall we say, is with smart delivery. Because now you've got, so you guys had the PS4 version of the game, and you had to upgrade it to the PS5 version of the game. And from what I understand from the WhatsApp groups that we've been having and the discussions thereof, it was a bit of a ball ache to get it from the one version to the other version, right?
Yeah, it was a real pain in the arse. And Jamie was the one who told me, like, oh, you've got to do this and blah, 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 and shared some screenshots I hadn't seen. But so I didn't have it installed on my PlayStation, the PlayStation 4 version. So I just put the PlayStation 5 version on, switched it on. It was all fine, like digital copy. It all went through and said, oh, you're this player, all logged on. But it didn't have any of my save data. And then Jamie had actually messaged and said, oh, have you done all this bullshit? Which is you have to install the PlayStation 4 version, commute your save into like a cloud save from that, go into the PlayStation 5 version, import your data, and then you can delete the PlayStation 4 version, which was a ball ache. Like it was really annoying to do that. I'll go through the whole process.
Man, that sucks.
Bit ridiculous.
But yeah.
But I've been playing some of the new characters. So there's a new I don't know if you call it DLC because it's free. I guess it is free DLC for Kate Bishop and Hawkeye. But it gives you like a campaign, some campaign stories tied to it. If anyone who's played it, you'll know it's not really like a campaign. It's just different missions inside of different areas. But it gives you some new areas to play certain missions as well as Kate Bishop. and as Hawkeye. I can't remember what each one's called, but they're 2 different story paths, which is all free if you've got the game. And the upgrade to PlayStation 5 was free, so if you haven't and you've got next gen,
Well, they kind of had to do that though, right? Because their numbers had fallen off so drastically.
well, they said all along that that was all going to be free. They didn't suggest it was going to be paid for. The one bit that I think will be paid for, I don't know if did they confirm. I can't remember if you guys remember the Black Panther DLC that they teased in the Square Enix Presents. They sort of said Black
What's
Panther.
it, the War for Wakanda or some shit?
Yeah, I don't know if that I don't know why I got the feeling that was going to be a paid expansion, not an outright bit of free add-on as we've seen up to now.
I maybe I wasn't paying close enough attention. I don't actually know what that, whether that's considered part of their content rollout or it's a separate thing. I assumed it was just a part of it.
I don't know why. Do you know what it is? Is because I think up until now they'd sort of talked about characters and when characters are releasing and the way they showed off, and I think they called it an expansion. And to me, I was like, right. So it's not part of the rollout. It's not part of the would you call it when you develop each individual character? It seems like a new thing. So yeah, I don't know, man. It was. It remains to be seen, I guess. I'll quickly see if I can find it and anything's confirmed.
No, it's all right. You can keep focus. I'm looking up as well. So
Oh, cool. Okay, but no. So yeah, Avengers is a weird game. Like anyone out there who's thinking of playing it, I would say I still have two weird opinions about it. One is that the combat is very enjoyable for a lot of those characters, and getting into the skill trees and getting the unlockable stuff can be a lot of fun. But the game itself is still kind of empty. And very repetitive.
Even up to this point with the Kate Bishop stuff.
Well, because it's just more of the same. Like even new feeling levels are just the same level, or they feel like almost like the same level, just slightly rejigged. So if it's a snow level, it's just going to be a gorge is in a slightly different place. You've got to still go from A to B, and you're just going as quickly as you can and smashing boxes. The combat is very messy, and I was playing it with AI. As my teammates, and that can be really fucking messy, especially in small environments. Everyone's just attacking the same like characters, and they're not the best. Although they seem to be a bit better actually about standing on, going to certain places they need to go and standing on certain platforms and things. They seem to be better at that. That was a bit painful when the game first dropped. But I don't know. I know, Jamie, you've jumped into a bit as well. What are your thoughts?
Yeah, I think mine is similar to yours in that I'm not 100% sold. I think it feels significantly better at 60 frames a second, which I guess is not all that surprising given the fact that the game felt a little bit chunky and clunky prior. But yeah, I'm just not being convinced that there's that the content in the game at the moment is where it needs to be for someone like me to return. I've got no interest in replaying that campaign. Even if you did want to, it's structured in such a way where I think you just need to reset your progress and start from the beginning. You can't pick out levels or sequences that you want to replay, which is a bummer. Because some of that stuff was decent. I know, right?
Yeah, that's really weird.
I have to admit, I haven't looked into any of the content around, or the operations I think they're referred to, around either of the 2 Hawkeyes. So I'm curious to see if that adds anything substantial in terms of like anything narrative or like any properly authored missions. But at the moment, I went back in, I did some harm room stuff, which is kind of like training exercises, and a few generic missions. And I was like, this is better, but I don't know why I should be grinding for loot or for gear or grinding any of these character levels at the moment.
And XP is harder to come by now, right?
Apparently they changed the kind of the leveling curve on a per hero basis, so that it's harder to get to the very end. But I don't know. I read conflicting reports over whether or not that was a big deal or not. So I don't know. Yeah. I'm not invested enough in that ecosystem to care.
What did you think of? What did you think of Jamie and Jonesy and I's idea about every time they release a new character, they should release a new like bad dude as well?
Absolutely, because like Jonesy mentioned the War for Wakanda expansion, which had a little trailer. And by the way, I looked it up, and that will be free.
Okay.
I will watch that trailer, and I thought, oh Jesus! Even just seeing Black Panther and a new environment, and hearing a reference to a new villain, kind of reminded me of what Marvel's Avengers should be, which is a regularly updated celebration of everything we've come to know and love from that world, from that universe. And that's absolutely a trick they've missed at the moment. And you're right, like the super villains element is arguably the most lacking of them all. The fact that we've got this Avengers game, this live service, ongoing, updated Avengers game, that we're now in, fucking 6 months down the line on, we have all these heroes, and we're still fighting Taskmaster and Abomination over and over again, who themselves would it was disappointing when they were the only two bad guys other than the dude with the big head in the campaign. The fact that they're still the only two bad guys is kind of crazy to me. But clearly, when you look at the new roadmap, the fact that I think it's been confirmed that Spider-Man won't be coming out until after the end of summer, which is kind of where their roadmap ends at the moment, it's like something's wrong in the rollout there. Black Panther should have happened last year. Spider-Man should be on the way, and I don't know. And the Hawkeye stuff, if I'm being honest, the Hawkeye stuff should have been happening inside the first month, right? That should have been the shit that was happening while you were playing to make you go, oh, this game is live, things are happening. But they missed that boat, regrettably.
That was one of the things I found the weirdest aspect was because the Kate Bishop and Hawkeye add to the main campaign. So you play through the main campaign, that finishes, then you've got the end game stuff, but then every time they drop a character, they have an extension to the main campaign, which is like a little individual vignettes about. So I think the Kate Bishop one is they've got some kind of time machine and they're using it to develop a weapon in another time, or in the future, that they can bring back to the present day. And Kate Bishop is like, I'm going to stop this. And then Hawkeye crosses over into the future. And so then Kate Bishop's like, well, we've got to get Hawkeye back. So it kind of adds to the whole main campaign story. And then in the Hawkeye one, you then obviously develop that story and Hawkeye becomes one of your Avengers that you can play as. But like as Jamie said, if they'd have been doing that every month, like after release, right? So let's say you get 2 months grace, you then get Kate Bishop, you then get a month, you then get Hawkeye, you then get a month, and it would just make the game feel like it was alive, and you wouldn't have then gone, hold on, this game's completely empty for a year, which is what it feels like they've done. I mean, it's been 6 months, but it was too long. It was too long for me to drop off, and
but
loads
hold
of
on,
other people to drop off.
Jonesy, by the time that the game is a year old, what would they have added? Kate Bishop and Hawkeye, right?
Wait,
Black Panther and Spider-Man.
No, probably not. Probably not even. I wouldn't be surprised if Spider-Man isn't ready by, or if Spider-Man is like the year one thing.
Yeah, so probably.
And by the way, when we say
Kate
Bishop and Hawkeye, when we say that, what we're really saying is two Hawkeyes. Because anyone who plays the game knows that they're both Hawkeye. They both have the same primary weapon. They both have the same ranged weapon. Their combos and skill trees might be slightly different. They're still both Hawkeye.
I think in the campaign side of it, because it's all new campaign story. I mean, from that aspect, it seems like they could be a different character. It doesn't have to be.
Yeah, but Jonesy, come on.
If
I told you in the run up to this game that by April, all you'd have is a male Hawkeye and a female Hawkeye.
Yeah,
Hawkeye already being the dumbest fucking Avenger. The Hawkeye being the guy who's like, yeah, he's good with a bow and arrow.
I know, I completely agree from that side. From the end game side of it, of like you can now choose to play with your mates. Yeah, if you choose Kate Bishop or Hawkeye, I haven't got far enough in either of those skill trees to like look into how they differentiate. But when you start playing with both of them, they feel very similar. They've both got a sword and they've both got a bow. Kate Bishop can like flit or whatever you call it, like she can sort of blink from one place to another, almost like teleport instantaneously. I'm not sure what male Hawkeye does, but yeah, you're right. From that aspect,
I think he's the same. I think he's got.
Okay.
No, he's got. One of them has a grapple. One of them has a grapple,
so that'll be him.
Which again, but like the thing about the grapple is like that's what Black Widow has.
Yes.
Like don't get me wrong. I
and
don't
another
care
character
about,
who's
because this.
Someone else has got that as well. I think there's a couple of characters.
Captain America has a double jump. Hulk just leaps. Black Widow has a grappling hook thing. Iron Man flies. I suppose Thor flies.
Ms. Marvel can like lob her hand out, which feels kind of similar and pulls herself. Like, and she can bound.
Don't get me wrong.
As well.
Because this has been a topic of conversation this week in the gaming sphere in some corners. Like, I don't care about like reused assets in most cases. Like, if someone has the same traversal mechanic as someone else, that's fine. But like everything about this game in terms of the content and the speed of the rollout of the content just seems completely misguided.
Yeah.
And like,
agreed.
If I can add another example of that I've just seen now looking at it, you look at their 2021 content roadmap, one of the things they have labeled for spring is I'm going to butcher the pronunciation, but the tachyon anomaly.
That's right, yeah.
Right. Yeah.
One of the elements of the tachyon anomaly, they say, since launch, we've heard players ask if more than one of the same hero can be present in a strike team. We're happy to announce that during the Temporal Assault event, you'll be able to play multiple of the same hero in the Avengers Initiative. If you've always wanted to see what a team of 4 Hulks is like, this event is for you. Taking fan feedback, saying, you're right, you guys all want to be the Hulk, great. And then putting it in a timed event.
Yeah, that's a Nintendo move, isn't it? That's like
yeah.
Super Mario 35 all over.
Nintendo
To
are
be
killing
fair-
Mario and the Avengers are killing fun.
To be fair to them, if that is genuinely something that some people wanted to do, and they're like, do you know what? It makes sense in this event because it's all about time travel. I can kind of forgive them a bit of that.
Bullshit. You can't frame it as like, oh, it's a thing that some people want to do. That game defaults to matchmaking on. If you go and try and play that game on your own without changing any settings, it will pair you up with other random people you probably are not communicating with. There's every chance that you complete that game, and since the post-game, end-game stuff started, you've only prioritized one person. Right now, my Black Widow is a higher level than anyone else. If I go on and someone else picks Black Widow, I'm fucked. My next best person is Captain America, who's a third of the power level of my Black Widow.
Yeah,
why?
that
Because
is...
you can't put time into every single character at the end of the game unless you know life this game, which no one wants to do.
The thing that they really need to do with the game, but I guess there's probably not enough players to do it, is that whenever you go on and you play as Black Widow, it teams you up with another 3 players, and it doesn't make you select any split. I know you can request certain players, so you can say you can be a character and then you can request like Thor, Iron Man, and a Hulk. But I don't know how that actually works in the sense. I
think that's just if you're playing with the AI, right? You can request who they play as.
Right, so that it doesn't help. That doesn't aid it if you're trying to play online with random people. It doesn't. I don't know if it does. I've just seen it as an option.
I don't think so.
Okay,
but fellas, the point is, a year in, they
just need more stuff, man.
Can I make one final point?
Let's do it.
Jordan, I was reminded of going back in with Kate Bishop and Clint Barton added in.
Go on.
I'd forgotten up to this point, but remembered that characters added after the fact, so characters added after the game launched, don't have their battle passes unlocked by default. You have to buy the battle passes now. So now there are 2 characters in the game whose battle passes cost money. Yeah. And the argument we had at the time was whether or not that was okay, because you by buying the game, you unlock the battle passes for the 6 base characters, and you would unlock currency by progressing through those battle passes to buy the battle passes for the subsequent people.
Yeah, you complete one, you get enough to get to the next one.
I can tell you now, as someone who played enough of Marvel's Avengers to play through the entirety of the campaign and do a handful of multiplayer sessions with a handful of different friends, I can only afford one of the 2 new characters' battle passes, which means if I wanted a battle pass for both characters that I was going to put time into, I would have to buy one of them.
And it's 10 quid, right?
You would have, something like that, at £8, £9. But, and Jamie, the thing is, you would have spent it on a Hawkeye, and then by the time Black Panther or Spider-Man comes out, you're like, well, I've already spent my in-game currency on fucking Hawkeye because I was so desperate for content for this fucking game.
I'm not going to go tinfoil hat. I'm not going to go full Jonesy. But male Hawkeye's customization stuff, his cosmetics, are the best of any character in the game.
Oh, really? I haven't even looked at the customizations.
By far.
Oh, yeah?
By far. There's one where he's basically Scorpion from Mortal Kombat. And it looks fucking sick. But it's like, of course he does, because of now they're actually charging money for the battle pass.
It's in a weird way, though. I am happy that they're better, because one of the annoying things about the base characters was a lot of those customizations were just like slightly different colors, and it felt kind of shit.
Yeah.
But then
go and look up Hawkeye's cosmetics after this, and tell me that they've not just improved the quality of them because now it costs money.
Do you know what though? I have to say, because I've had this conversation with you about battle passes, Jamie, relatively recently in other games, and your critique of when I've said, oh, you want people to be able to get through a battle pass and be able to unlock more stuff. Your thing was, well, you just need to get good and you need to play the game.
Just play the game.
I'm a little bit hesitant to agree with you on whether or not you can go through a battle pass and that. When, as we've all said, you've had plenty of time to play through multiple characters' battle passes, get some in-game currency, and unlock some new characters. So,
but
you know what, mate? I think you're your own worst enemy when it comes to
Marvel's Avengers Battle Pass progression is different, because unlike other games where any time spent in the game is translated into Battle Pass progress, regardless of whether you're doing well or not, Marvel's Avengers Battle Pass progress is tied to the completion of daily and weekly challenges, of which there is always a finite amount.
Yes, there is.
So that I remember at the time, there were literally people busting the calculator out and working out the exact amount of time you had to spend leveling up a character's battle pass by playing every single day, because there was literally a point where you couldn't progress it anymore after a certain amount of time playing. So that is when Marvel's Avengers is slightly different, but point taken.
But then, because it is a weird one, because you have that aspect to it, which is really annoying. But then you also have the side of it where it's not time limited. So you could go in there, play as Iron Man, play for a year, and you're still running the same battle pass. It's not like it gets reset. So at least
True.
you can get to the end of it. But no, you make a good point that it is and like Chris said, you might have sunk your in-game currency into Hawkeye, having completed one main game character, and now you've got like, well, hold on, when's Spider-Man coming out? When's Black Panther coming out? Because now I'm actually going to have to bust out the real money. And then it's given the quality of the actual game, I struggle to see many people sinking real money into it. But but I'm going to give it some more time. I'm going to put some more effort into it, because I don't want to write it off just yet, and I spent money on it. So
yeah. You're going to make sure it's worth it.
There we go.
It would be fascinating to see on its 1 year anniversary kind of where it's at, what they've released, what their player numbers are.
It's a hard game to play with other people. I think Jamie's the only person I know who owns it, apart from me. So trying to get a team of 4 people is a pain in the
Could
ass.
play it with Sam.
Does Sam have it?
Sam Richards?
You must.
I don't think he has.
I'm like 95% sure he doesn't have it.
I don't think he has. Yeah.
I think he avoided it.
I think I asked him
He
about it,
avoided
and he was like, "Nah, it's not for me." And I was like, "Oh God, this isn't good."
Yeah.
Shout
For anyone
to Sam,
wondering,
everyone.
our friend Sam is probably the biggest Marvel fan any of us know.
Yeah, definitely.
So
Yeah.
worrying signs. We might find out more though when Square Enix Presents returns later in the summer for another live stream.
Yeah.
I enjoyed it. Did you guys actually watch the presents? Because I thought they did quite a good job of. There was enough in that presentation for me to sort of not necessarily as someone who was enjoying most of the games they were putting out. That's a lie, because Outriders I'm super psyched for, and they started for that. And I pre-ordered it, which I said I wasn't going to do after what happened with Marvel. But but I thought it was a pretty decent little event. I enjoyed some of what they were giving out. I definitely thought there was a nice little dollop there for Jamie with the new Life is Strange.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think I jokingly described myself earlier when we were talking as a Life is Strange stan.
You did.
Look, I think that series has done some like surprisingly cool things. I think some of it is cheesy and corny and kind of shite, and I completely get why someone would play like the first episode of Life is Strange 1 and say, "Nah, fuck this."
Yeah.
What's the word they say all the time in Life is Strange that people take the piss out of? I forget. There's some word.
Oh, hella?
Hella. That's it. Yeah, hella. I can see why someone would hear the word hella 10 times and be like, "I'm out."
I tried to play it after after you saying you really enjoyed it, and
my glowing review.
And you got to stick with it. It's one of those that gets better the further in you are.
Agreed.
It definitely felt like something like a story to experience rather than a game to be played. It almost felt a bit telltale to me, and I'm not into like that.
Jonesy, can I give you the cliff notes?
Go
right?
for it.
You just go on Wikipedia and read about what happens, or you just go onto YouTube and find someone who's compiled the story and watch it at 2 times speed. That's all you really need to do.
I'd say one thing I thought about and I don't know if this was on purpose. I'm sure it wasn't, but the trailer that they played for Life is Strange True Colors is what it's called, isn't it?
True Colors.
Colors.
Yeah.
It felt quite Last of Us. It almost felt like what could have happened to Ellie had the events of the I don't know what you call it, the pandemic in The Last of Us, because there was a lot of guitar playing. There was some like modern music replayed.
But it's
not
it's not set in a post-apocalypse where a fucking virus has turned everyone into zombies.
But that's what I said. Imagine
a normal world.
Imagine that event had never occurred, and they were like,
yeah,
"What
but
would happen
when
to
you're
Ellie
saying
at school?"
when you're saying imagine that event had never occurred, you're basically just saying, imagine there's a girl who plays a guitar
in the real world.
Yeah.
Look,
life.
Life is Strange.
The trailers.
The Last of Us. This girl plays the guitar.
Specifically the feel of the trailer. I think it was the tone, and it was the way that they used sort of like the music and everything. It just felt quite Last of Us-y to me.
all those themes from The Last of Us about a girl who can read minds and figure out people's emotions, and a murder mystery where her brother gets killed.
I have never played it. Like I said, it was
So
just
much
the
fun.
tone. It was the tone of the thing.
It was a trailer.
It was the tone of the thing made me think, oh, interesting. I wonder if this was they'd seen, they'd thought how good the trailers for The Last of Us were, and they're like, yeah, we need some acoustic guitar and young girl talking and stuff, and they're like, gonna hit.
I
these
mean,
notes.
that is basically what Life is Strange is. It's a young girl with an acoustic
It's
guitar.
Ellie. That's all I'm saying.
Sure.
Although she's
Jesus.
not
But
so
yeah,
young
so
now.
Jamie, you're hyped? You glad that it's not going to be episodic and it's just going to be a fucking one-off?
I wasn't bothered by the episodic. All the episodic thing did was make me wait until the end of the episodes. Right? It's like binge watching TV shows. I just wait until the end. Wait until it's done. So I guess in that sense, being able to play it all up front, if it's tailored to be played in one long chunk, then yeah, great. I'm down for it. It's interesting that it's not the developers of Life is Strange 1 and 2. It's the developers of Life is Strange Before the Storm, which was the kind of the spin-off that came between the two. But they've clearly done a lot of work on the tech and on the visuals and the presentation, because obviously
it looks really good, yeah.
Yeah, like animations and kind of like the technical side of the Life is Strange games was not their strong suit. But no, it's encouraging so far. I'm curious to see how the central ability, for want of a better way of putting it, plays out in terms of. I don't know. It doesnment seem as interactive or as gaming.
What happens if you are colorblind?
I mean, do you want the actual answer to that? I've got because they've got to have colorblind modes, right? Like that's a very video
you'd
game
imagine.
thing.
But yeah,
That's
it's
a
like,
boring
you
answer.
could see people's colors and
You have to wear those glasses
Yeah.
that one of the Paul brothers wears.
Or you just get it wrong. You get like the bad ending after 2 hours.
You're like, I don't get it. I did
everyone's
everything
emotions.
right.
Everything's great.
Yeah. It's like LA Noire, where you're like looking at their face, like, is he lying or like? What the?
Don't even.
What is-
That game was so dumb. Whether you were trying to tell if someone was lying or telling the truth.
Yeah, Chris is right. It was basically like someone saying a statement. They're just doing that face. But like, if they're like,
The worst for me, it was like you'd say, "Oh, were you there at that time?" And they'd go, "No." And I was like, "Oh, they're lying," and you'd go, "You're lying," and they'd say, "What proof?" And I'd be like, "Well, I don't know. Was it the fucking chewing gum? Is that the proof?" And then it would say "fail." Like, brilliant.
yeah.
Anyway.
Not helped by the fact that I think they changed the wording of like the truth, doubt, lie system.
Yeah.
Like fucking 50 times.
Mm.
In different versions of the game, it's different things.
Good concept, bad execution.
Yeah. Which, hey,
Yeah.
that maybe we'll see if Life is Strange is able to deliver on that part as well.
So what you're saying is Life is Strange True Colors is the spiritual successor to LA Noire.
Yes, that's exactly
I get
what
you.
I'm saying.
That
That's
sounds
exactly
cool.
what I'm saying.
So it's basically Horror of the Orient.
It's Horror of the Orient, except you can read minds.
Ah, I like it. Well, that's a game I'd play.
It's David presenting David Blaine's Horror of the Orient.
Oh my god, Darren Brown. Yeah, I mean, God, there was Life is Strange. What else was there? That Forspoken looked pretty cool. So that was that. Yeah, that was that Project Athia that they showed off, and everyone was like, "Oh, is this a new Final Fantasy? This is going to come out in 8 years' time." Guess what, bitches? It's called Forspoken, and it's coming out next year.
It looked really cool.
Asterisks, like maybe.
That looked legit. Like that trailer, the little bit they showed off looked very cool.
It did look cool.
What's the word? Like,
Yeah,
something to definitely keep an eye on.
I
don't know what the word is. I give up.
What is the word?
What is the word? Like something to. I don't know. I gave up. I was like, I can't think of the word. It's intriguing. Intriguing.
You just did like the
Intriguing.
opposite of the dictionary, where like you didn't say the word, but you said the dictionary definition.
I bailed because I was like, I can't think of the word.
Something to keep an eye on.
Intriguing. It looked like a very intriguing game.
Intriguing.
I must admit I liked the trailer because it started off with like the dragon comes out and then the woman goes, "Is that a motherfucking dragon?" And then it just all kicks off, which I thought was a very cool way to start a trailer.
Yeah, this is because this is the game that's being written by Gary Whitta of Star Wars Rogue One fame.
Rogue One fame, yeah.
So I guess it will have maybe it does appear to have a slightly more Western sense of humor. I don't know how, I don't know, like
sensibility.
Western sensibility. That's a good way of putting it. Even if it is from the Final Fantasy 15 team and has that engine and look is kind of very Final Fantasy, as people
Yeah.
about when it was first shown.
I don't know. Look, yeah, it looks cool. I think Jonesy's right. It's one to keep an eye on.
Intriguing. There's a word for you to use today.
Intriguing.
If you haven't used that word in a while, bust it out.
So
fellas,
you don't get to make intriguing word of the day. It's intriguing. That's
No,
like
like
saying,
you could drop that into
What's
conversation.
tomorrow's word of the day going to be? Interesting.
No,
Like,
you know, it's something completely different for tomorrow. Can't use an interesting the day after intriguing. Come on, mate.
here's a word of the day for you. Bread. Like,
You've got to have more exciting word than that. Do you want
but isn't the point of the word of the day to teach you a new word? Like, well, intriguing's everyone knows that word.
I don't think it should be one to teach you a new word.
How about this one? Word of the day: interrobang.
Interrobang? What the hell does that mean?
Yeah, that's an actual word.
Interrogate someone by banging them?
No, it's when you put like a question mark, exclamation mark.
No.
Question mark. Yes, yeah.
Yeah, that's an interrobang.
I still don't get
Really?
it.
I think
That's
so. Yeah,
that's a
fuck, I hope I'm
fantastic.
not wrong now. I'm pretty sure.
That's a fantastic word.
Interrobang.
You're absolutely right. It's a non-standard pronunciation mark indicating a question expressed in exclamatory manner, as in, what are you doing? Question mark, exclamation mark.
Intriguing.
Oh, so the exclamation mark is the interrobang.
No, the coupling of an exclamation mark and a question mark is an interrobang.
Interestingly,
Right.
it seems as though there is an actual symbol that is a question mark and an exclamation mark on top of each other.
Jamie,
But
would you call
Wikipedia,
it?
it's often represented as question mark.
Would you
Would you
call
call
it
it intriguing?
Fuck off.
Perfect. All right. Well, you know who else is fucked off, guys?
Oh,
Richard de la Ruina.
oh, poor bloke.
He's fucked right off over Steam.
Before we
yes,
talk
that's-
about his actual game, can we just
Come
talk
on,
about
that
his?
was such a good fucking segue.
It was a great segue, and I'm going to carry on, but off the back of you saying about his name, because is that not the dumbest name? That sounds like a name you come up with when you were 16, and you and your mates thought you were like, "I've got a well cool name. I'm Richard de la Ruina." Because I ruin them, and you're like, dude, you are not funny. And then he's just kept it until he's like
He's
45.
just kept it, yeah. Well,
Is
I
it-
mean,
but is it-
anyone...
wait, are we sure it's a made-up name?
Definitely is made up.
No, I don't think it's
Yes, it is.
because it's...
Dude, come on, it's like
No.
a baker being called like Baker or a farmer being called Farmer. Like he's got a game about hooking up, and his name is De La Ruina. Like, come on, it's got to be made up.
It's
Well, yes,
just
anyway.
It's just La Ruina, by the way, not Della.
Ruina.
Sorry, La Ruina.
De la Ruina is his spicy...
Hold on,
cousin.
what's his first name?
Richard.
So he's Dick La Ruina.
Dick la Ruina.
So he's actually
I don't know. Like
into
according
ruining
to
dicks.
everything I can see, it actually seems to be his name.
he's Dick La Ruina.
Yeah.
He ruins
There you
dicks.
go.
He's not even into
Well,
girls.
yeah, so this is the guy responsible for such classics as Super Seducer and Super Seducer 2, and what would be Super Seducer 3, except for the fact that the game has been banned on Steam. So he tried to kind of like get it registered and sold on Steam, and I think everything was going okay, but then Steam kind of pulled it, and then there's a little bit of back and forth, but now officially it is being banned. The page is gone. 61,700 wish list entries have been wiped out. And prior to this, Richard was told to expect either approval or feedback from Steam, but Steam was just like, Gaben probably said, I don't want this fucking stuff on my channel, on my program. Fuck that shit.
Do you want to know what a gem this bloke was? Because I knew I recognised him from a YouTube hole that I went down many years ago, and it was because Dick La Ruina.
Was it maybe the fact that we did quite a few 6 lists?
Well, maybe, but
that included him.
No, because
he showed up in the ATG Game Awards. Like Richard La Ruina won Best New Character one year.
Oh, okay. But one of I didn't recognise him at the time, but and I've just found it now. He was on Good Morning Britain, which is a morning show in the UK, talking about why British women are overweight. And in the show, he says that Russian women are much more attractive because English girls are ugly. And he went on TV to say that and just got like rinsed by the host
on a show called Good Morning Britain.
Yeah, and he just says it to like 2 British women as well. He's like, "You're fat and overweight and ugly."
Hey, you know what? Fair play to him. I mean, that takes balls.
Dick La Ruina has balls. He has.
Dick La Ruina has balls.
Outrageous.
Oh man. But yeah, so the reason, fellas, that it was banned on Steam was because apparently it fell foul of Steam's ruling against sexually explicit images of real people. And the real people is the cincher there, because as Jonesy mentioned before this podcast, Jonesy's played some absolute filth on Steam.
Absolute filth, yeah. As long as it's animated, apparently it's fine. You can do weird shit to people. But
yeah, but as soon as there's real people involved,
Yeah.
Now, to Richard's defense, he did say that he would change whatever needed to be changed. I think at one point they did go back to him with some feedback and say, hey, we can't do this because of XYZ. I think one of them was that he had to prove that the actresses in the game, because it's like an FMV, like imagine like a Telltale game, but actual live people. And he had to prove that the women in the game are over 18, which I believe he did. But then there was radio silence from there on.
Yeah. I'll be honest, maybe I'm being naive. I'm slightly surprised that A, this is a rule, and that B, Steam enforce it so firmly. I don't know.
Steam are very, and Valve as a company are very notoriously hands-off, aren't they? They very much like, hey, the market takes care of itself, marketing takes care of itself, Steam takes care of itself. If people want the game on, then it should be on there. People vote with their wallets, all that kind of bullshit.
It's a relatively new thing for Steam to have explicit animation stuff on their site, though. I mean, for a long time, they didn't allow that sort of stuff on there. And I think it was the year before last when they actually allowed sort of like anime hentai stuff to in games on the site. So maybe
AKA the day that Alex Jones's life changed.
It was only about 3 months that my life changed when Jamie told me that that was on there, and then I found it and was like, Jesus.
Became a born-again pervert.
Yeah, born-again pervert. I have to do something during lockdown. But
wow.
I wonder...
I hope your wife doesn't listen to this.
I wonder if it's...
what is happening?
I wonder if it's more of like the fact that they don't like him and they think that he's negative publicity, because he's, especially in the world as it is at the moment, and this whole kind of like it's trying to be like anti-negativity, and especially guys who are just making games about picking up women. I wonder if it's a negative thing on Steam, a negative PR angle. So Steam are using the fact that there's some because there's no nudity, right? It's more like skimpy clothes, and because they've said they're Instagram safe. Instagram safe. So there's nothing that you would see in the game that you wouldn't see on Instagram, and Instagram doesn't allow nudity. So
there's no nipple. There's no.
So Jamie's out.
There's no exposed nipple, but also they've got a
exposed anus.
They've got a completely censored version of the game, which is because this game prior to release was sent out to streamers. So this has been played extensively on Twitch, and Twitch is a platform who can themselves be quite strict and have some strange rulings. They didn't take issue with the censored version of this game. So that's interesting that this is a game that can be played in full on Twitch, but cannot be sold on Steam.
Well, you know what he should do? This would be so interesting. He should, I mean, obviously, it's a futile exercise, but imagine he took the game exactly as it is, and except for using movie files, he got someone to just animate all of it. and then resubmit it to Steam and be like, all right, bitches, it's not real people anymore.
It wouldn't. I think.
And see,
the problem is with that is it would be nowhere near explicit enough for the people that would want to play that sort of game. They'd probably be like, "Oh, this is boring. Like, you don't see anything."
Well,
I don't know, man. It's also weird because it feels like the FMV genre was occasionally in certain scenarios, in certain corners, like being taken to some interesting places. And I forget the person's name. The person who made. It was her story, I think it was called.
Oh, yeah.
And then they did a follow-up, which was called, I think, Telling Lies?
Telling Lies, and then there was that Erica. There was
Erica
on
exactly.
PlayStation.
And it's like, I never saw Telling Lies all the way through, so I don't know if it actually had sexual content, but I remember there was one sequence where someone is in not very much clothes, because there's a famous, or a fairly popular Twitch clip where a guy's wife walks in right when that person is in their... I think they're basically just in their bra, which, as a game, it's a game about people basically filming themselves in their webcams and having sort of like webcam conversations. It was an awkward moment for one's wife to walk in, as I'm sure you can imagine. But I don't remember that having any issue. And maybe it's because it wasn't sexualized enough, wasn't sexually charged enough. I don't know, but weird.
At this point, shouldn't they just take the game like as is? I don't think they should run around after Steam anymore and just take it somewhere else. Take it to GOG or take it to Epic or take it to whoever and try and get someone else to have it on their platform. It seems like obviously Steam is the biggest platform out there, shop front, but you could take it somewhere else. Like you don't need to put it onto.
You could just sell it on your own. Like
I mean, you could, but then I suppose maybe that's just extra cost and extra expense, so they don't necessarily want to.
He does have a donate button set up on his website. You can donate to him via PayPal, Bitcoin, Coinbase, or with a bank transfer.
I'll take your money however you want to give it.
There's his. He's got a bank account.
Wow,
With
weird.
an IBAN number.
To be fair, like with this game, though, I think it is kind of funny that the level of sort of like how explicit this is banned. You can't sell it, yet you can have people on. This is not a value judgment let me say that first, but you can have people on Twitch playing this game. Playing games on Twitch in far less clothing than Steam allow in their games, but you could have it on the stream as long as they're not in the game, which is kind of interesting.
Yeah, it is kind of mad, isn't it? It's like I think on YouTube as well, you could have like the body painting shit as long as you just cover up the nipple.
Right. But I get the sense in this game you couldn't have that. Like you wouldn't be allowed that.
No, not at all.
For what it's worth, he's confirmed that Epic turned down Super Seducer 3 and GOG turned down Super Seducer 1 and 2 and did not answer a query.
They just ignored him. That's brilliant.
He said consoles are very unlikely, but it seems like this game is really struggling at the moment, and he's confirmed that there will not be a Super Seducer 4 just because it's too risky and stressful, which kind of sucks for this guy.
Well, I mean, he obviously put money into it, right? Like that's you strip everything away. It's like the underlying bare bones story here is man spends own money on game and can't sell it, right?
Yeah.
But then I suppose at the same time, technically he is a dick because his name is Richard. And as a dick, some things are hard. And I think
wow,
he struggled to. Do you know what? At this point, he should take the game then and he should go onto, Kickstarter or something like that. And he should say, it's the game they don't want you to play. And he should say, Epic rejected it. Steam have said it's too, whatever. It was 63,000 people wanted to buy it. And he should get behind him the infrastructure to sell it, as Jamie said, like to sell it himself. I think that's the way to go at this point. It's kind of it's almost getting to a point where, what's the thing that is it the effect where you try and ban something and makes it super popular?
Streisand effect.
Right. So it could get to that point. It could actually make him a shitload more money and it could make it a lot more popular than it would be otherwise.
Yeah.
Like I said, he just needs to find a way to do it. You know what he should do? Go into the Red Candle online e-store and sell it alongside Devotion.
I don't think they'll take it, to be honest.
2 games banned for very different reasons.
Yeah. Oh, man. All right, guys, let's move on to the next topic because it's something that I didn't think we'd be covering so soon. But Cyberpunk 2077 patch 1.2 got a developer insight. Now, the patch itself, not out yet, which is a bit disappointing to some people, but I would wager that a lot of people just don't care about it anymore.
Maybe. I mean, you two own and have played the game. If you don't care, then that's some of the demographic answered for right there, right?
Well, there we go.
I would qualify, like I said, I'll just qualify. The reason I don't is because I'm waiting for the next gen update before I jump back into that. I don't want to have a less enjoyable time with it before that update gets released later this year. Hopefully this year. So I've sort of put it on the back burner until for now.
I'll be honest with you guys. Like, it's still on my desktop. It's still installed. And every time I got time to play a game, I look at my icons and I see a Cyberpunk and I'm like, nah, just play Dota, play Apex, play anything else. Oh, the one thing that I also started playing, Wolfenstein, New Order. Rather play that at the moment.
Yeah. Fair enough. Do you think you'll ever finish it?
But Cyberpunk?
Yeah.
Yeah, I'd like to think so. Like, I didn't dislike what I played with it. I actually did quite enjoy it, but
I remember.
It all right, it's almost like this, right? It's almost like you order a burger and the chef is like, yeah, this is a McDonald's patty. But if you just wait a bit, I could upgrade that to a Wagyu beef. And you're like,
I do like Wagyu.
Okay. I do like a Wagyu.
See, I don't think that's a. The reason I don't know if that analogy tracks is because for a McDonald's patty to become a Wagyu beef patty, you need to outright exchange patties. You need to take away patty 1 and bring in patty 2. You can't do that with a video game you've already shipped. Like, the question is, what can you do to a McDonald's patty to make it taste or look or feel like something else? And the answer, perhaps as we're about to get into, is not that much. But the main reason, because I'll be for transparency, the main reason I thought it would be interesting to talk about this patch 1.2 development insight is because I thought that they took a real risk in structuring this news story the way they did, given that how tentative everything around this game is at the moment, given how skeptical people are, and given how much is potentially riding on patch 1.2 delivering a fair amount of updates, not just in terms of behind-the-scenes stuff and crash fixes and stability improvements, but also like tangible improvements. And for anyone,
sorry, Joe, because this was meant to be like one of the big patches, right? That's like,
Right.
hey, the game's broken. This is one big.
It was
patch
the Jan
that's
and Feb were
fix-
going to be the big ones.
Yeah.
Yeah,
It's like
and-
this is going to
and-
fix so much shit, and well,
and some
as we'll
after
find out.
1.1, which is the January update, some people came out and said, I didn't notice anything different. Like nothing
Yeah.
noticeably changed. So yeah, in the absence of the release of the patch and patch notes and anything sort of full on in terms of describing what they're doing, they've done an N54 news report where they have outlined. Sorry, go for it.
Yeah, so just to clarify, an in-game news channel.
Yeah, where again they've outlined the problems with the game and what they are doing to fix them, all in universe and in character. And the easiest example I can give, and this is a written article, by the way, this isn't a video, is so one of the first changes that they're addressing in this article is the police response.
Yeah.
And what they're actually doing, to give it to you in black and white, is they are decreasing the problem of NPCs spawning behind players' backs and creating an impression that it takes some time for the police to arrive at the crime scene after the crime has been reported. We've also added a recon drone unit to create the feeling of the police assessing the situation. That's from Patrick, lead gameplay designer, and Lukasz, the technical design coordinator at CD Projekt Red. But if you read this article in chronological order, you get this. You heard right. The NCPD quick response team is under fire from concerned night citizens and corporations alike. The rapid deployment tactics they recently adopted forced mercenaries to think twice before pointing a gun at anyone, but will now be adjusted to give the other side some breathing room. We then get an on-the-scene report from Mike from Kabuki saying, my chum Jake was in a shootout with Tiger Claws the other day when he missed a shot and hit a pedestrian on the other side of the street. In an instant, the NCPD swarmed upon him and put him down. It's like they appeared out of thin air, right behind his back.
Wow.
So this is what I thought was crazy. Like, with everything going on with Cyberpunk right now, we're taking a genuine technical problem that police units spawn out of thin air, sometimes in plain sight, and we're getting in-universe fictional characters telling fake stories where, like, they're almost trying to, like, come up with... I'm not suggesting they're coming up with in-universe excuses. I'm not going to go that far, but...
It's just like taking the piss a bit, isn't it? When maybe they shouldn't.
This is like the too soon thing. It's like when someone tells a joke about something and it's too soon, and you're like, you can't make a joke out of the shit. You need to fix it, and then you can make a joke. Like, it's weird doing like this.
Get people's trust back.
Yeah,
but I think you're missing the bigger kind of fucking warning sign for me is that the Night City Police Department is still going to be spawning in rather than the police are in the world and they are going about a routine. And if you happen to be caught in the
but that's true. That's
like,
true of
remember
any game, right? I think the issue with Cyberpunk is that's not the problem. I don't think every game does that. Every game has police spawn in. They're not really driving around with a routine, but other games do it better about making you believe they have got a routine. Cyberpunk didn't do it at all. They just went, look, there's a policeman, and you're like, but he wasn't there a second ago. So.
Yeah, but I think Jones, if you really want to go whole hog into like a wanted system and everything, it needs to be way more fleshed out. Like,
it does.
Fucking hell, dude. Skyrim had when it launched, it had chickens that would see you pickpocketing people. The chicken would walk to the guard, report your crime, and then that guard that was standing there would run to you and be like, stop right there. What are you doing? Like, come on, dude. Skyrim could fucking do it. Like,
I think
a decade ago.
Yeah, I think you're right. But the problem for me with this,
yes. Things are going to spawn in because they need, like, oh, the cop is on the street. It sees you. It needs to call in reinforcements. But what are they doing? Like, oh, it's a drone.
Yeah, they can't exactly. They could. What I was going to say is that it doesn't. I don't mind them spawning in if they spawn in round the corner and then they stand there frozen for 10 seconds and then they come around the corner. That's fine because my brain thinks, oh, the police have been called and they're on their way. Like I'm happy with that as an illusion.
Sure.
But the problem for me with Cyberpunk is more the issue of. And it goes back to some of the problems they had with The Witcher 3 is a lot of their fixes are sort of like just trying to cover over the crap with some workarounds. They're not actually fixing problems. They're just doing workarounds, and it doesn't.
What is that fucking folktale? Was it like fucking Heidi or some shit where she's plugging the holes in the dam in fucking Amsterdam, like in the Netherlands or some shit? What was it?
I don't know, mate.
Do you know what I mean? Like the dam is springing a leak and there's a hole and she puts the finger in the hole, not like that, another gutter, and stops the leak. But then another one pops up. It's like a fucking Looney Tunes thing that they always used to fucking do. And eventually you've got Bugs Bunny there with like all his fingers in the holes and his ears. It's like you're putting a plaster over one wound, but as soon as you do that, because there's so much pressure behind the thing you're trying to patch up, it just makes another split or another hole.
Right.
Yeah.
That's what it feels like with this. It just seems like it's all fucking...
But that's what I mean. This goes back to what I was saying right at the beginning, which is like, this is not a conversation about can you replace the McDonald's patty with the Wagyu steak. This is a conversation about the fact that the McDonald's patty is here to stay. Like, there's nothing they can do. And even if we go back to the direct quote from a CD Projekt Red employee about the way they're changing the police system, they go, it should decrease the problem of NPCs spawning behind the player's back and create an impression that it takes some time for the police to arrive at the crime scene. Yeah. So even they're admitting, like, their AI system, their police system, is their police system. They cannot, at this stage, fundamentally pull it out and insert something completely new. What they have to do is, like you said, plaster over the cracks and create an impression that things are happening differently. How? By increasing the distance from which those police units spawn out of thin air so that you don't see them at first and at least for a couple of seconds afterwards too, I presume. So it feels like a more natural response. Yeah. But it's still a completely unnatural system.
So I think the one thing that sort of, I don't know if it like gives me hope, but Cyberpunk at its core, like I think when you play it and some of the things you interact with in that game are very good, like the writing and the story, I really enjoyed, and I was like, I want more of this. The visuals for me were nowhere near what I expected them to be on the playing backwards compatibility mode, which is why I want to wait for next gen. So if they manage to patch and add stuff to on top of the patty, as you were saying, Jamie, that gets me far enough down that line.
A couple of slices of American cheese.
Yeah, like if they dump some American cheese, some good sauce in there, some lettuce and some other stuff, and then I can enjoy it. It might not be Wagyu beef, but it can still be really tasty. The issue for me is, can they get there? Like, and that's still a massive question. And I think it's still a massive question. Like these impressions and these like using things to trick you and these sort of, is it enough? Is it going to be enough? And can they do enough of it?
I was going to say, like, on the theme of how bizarre this sort of whole article was, there's actually one more thing I wanted to call attention to, which is basically the second patch they've outlined is an update to the driving model. They said that they analysed feedback that suggested that players were having issues with the speed of steering, especially with PC players trying to steer on keyboards, or people having an issue with steering at lower frame rates. Of course, when you create an update that tries to adjust the driving model so that it's easier to control at lower frame rates, you have to acknowledge that your game sometimes suffers from lower frame rates. But again, they're doing this in universe. So what you've got is the Channel 54 news reporter saying, blah, 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 something about roadkill, blah, 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 blah. Soon, the mandatory update will allow for better synchronization between the Crystal Dome system and the vehicle, resulting in a more fluid driving experience, even when the image excuse me, even when the image signal skips a frame or two. So now you've got an in-universe news reporter trying to, again, I'm not suggesting that they're actually claiming it's an excuse, but saying that frame rate drops that we're experiencing as a result of poor optimization relate to image signal skips from a crystal dome system in universe.
Yeah,
it's kind of
guys,
my mind
listen.
boggles that someone thought this was a good idea.
It's not a glitch. It's a feature. All right. It's not a bug. It's a feature.
This sounds like the result of a meeting where someone too high up the food chain who is, thinks their opinion is better than it really is, who just had some ideas about, we'll put it in the world and people will think it's funny. It's like, no, dude, people want you to fix the game. And then
you
can't have a sense of
Jonesy.
humor around this game.
No, Jonesy's fucking nailed it. Well, you know what this is? This is cocaine talking.
I got it, guys. This will make everyone happy. No, it won't.
The last thing I'll say before we move on is that this, again, it's called Development Insight into Patch 1.2. So it's not encompassing everything that's going to be in Patch 1.2. These are not patch notes. But
you should fucking hope so, because there's only 4 fucking things that they're talking about.
I was going to say, they're talking about 4 things. We've talked about 2 of them already. The Night City Police Department response time, and the fact that they're making police officers spawn further away.
Yeah.
A tweak in the driving model, so that steering is easier at lower frame rates.
Yeah.
Patch number 3 is that essentially cars can get stuck. For example, they showed a clip of someone, like little ramps that might be on the edge of a freeway, or in the middle of a freeway. That being perfectly in the middle of the car, so it's almost like stuck, beached. You can now rock the car backwards and forwards and side to side to get it out of those situations. And change number 4.
That's not a good fix.
Change number 4 is that now the dodge action that was previously bound to double tapping the movement key can be unbound. It can be turned off.
Headline news.
So one of the 4 changes that they're outlining in this early sneak preview of patch 1.2 is the ability to unbind a certain control. That's what we're at at the moment.
Cocaine talking. That's where
we're at the moment. I'll be honest. I'm somewhat flabbergasted that this is even a thing. That's why I wanted to talk about it. I'm shocked that the same people who have been through everything they've been through for the past 4 months, 5 months, deservedly or not, thought that this was a good idea.
But do you remember when we talked about this last year and we said, or maybe it was early in the year, but we said, will patch 1 and 2 do enough to get it to where people want it? And I think we all said, no, of course not. But there were people who genuinely said online, after the February patch, it will be where it needed to be on release. And it was like, we don't think the game will ever be there. And there are people who are legitimately saying a couple of patches are going to fix it.
But there are also people out there. Do you remember a few months ago that there was this big sort of quote unquote leak where a person came out claiming to be a former developer and they outlined the state of the game? And they said, there's a big underground subway system that got cut out of the game. And amongst other stuff they said, they claimed, for example, that there was a good, solid working version of the police AI that got ripped out and replaced with this temporary thing, and it will get swapped back. They also claimed that the game was being completely reworked for PS5 and Xbox Series X and was running really well. There are some people, even though that got widely dismissed, and CD Projekt Red even came out and gave its own individual tweet saying, "Hey, this is fucking bullshit. This is complete fan fiction." There are some people who still genuinely believe that post was real, and that people like CD Projekt Red and journalists like Jason Schreier were trying to cover up the truth because it looked bad. There are some people who get their tinfoil hat so firmly on they can't take it back off, and they believe whatever they want to believe when it comes to games like this. Why? Because they've been invested in it for years. They spent that $60 fucking back in 2012 or 2013 or whatever that initial animation came out. And the fact that this thing wasn't everything they believed it could be or everything they wanted it to be blows their minds. I don't know.
There's a weird thing with that, because if you've played RPGs, if you've played Bethesda games, if you've played Fallout 3 or whatever, you know that RPGs can be janky as fuck. And you can still have a great time.
Sure. Part and parcel, dude.
But it's those people, like you've said, Jamie, that they go one step too far, and you're like, okay. I bought in.
I'm going to say it. I'm not going to name names, but I'm going to say it. There are people, patrons of this podcast, and I know they are because they're on the Discord, who get invested in conspiracy theories about what's really going on around these games. That believe that like fucking posts like that one that went viral are accurate, and so on and so forth.
Oh, well,
and
come on now. I love
like,
a good conspiracy. I love.
Can I say something that might shatter the earth for these people?
Go on.
You know how we all take the piss out of fucking 50, 60-year-old women who spend too long on Facebook and start believing conspiracy theories as a result, and basically become Karens from in front of their computers.
Karen Anon.
Yeah, you're the gaming version of fucking conspiracy theory mums like that. When you start looking at that leak and everything that person who claimed to be a CDPR employee said, and when it got denied, you said, oh, they're just covering it up. They're just trying to save face. If you're one of those people, you are the gaming version of the Facebook mum.
G Anon, yeah?
Yeah.
Ganon. Ganon, like it's in...
Just take your tinfoil hat off for 2 seconds, bro. Like... The game can be bad.
I suppose in some sense, that you can believe that sort of stuff whilst still not going too far. It's almost like fun to believe it, and you don't necessarily believe it. But yeah, I think if you're wedded to stuff like that, and even after it's obviously not true, then yeah, maybe just take a breath, maybe just reevaluate the game, the situation, and say maybe not.
Yeah,
you know.
Yeah, or like the people who believe like the hack was on purpose. Or like that they
hack themselves,
or that they hack themselves, or that they made the hack up to buy themselves more time. Like, I get it. Sometimes it's fun to engage in rumors like that.
Do you know what I love engaging with shit like that, so I'm not even going to say anything about those people. I like to think that I take my tinfoil hat off though after I put it on. It's not wedged on permanently.
Jonesy, but then I can ask you this, Jonesy: do you believe that CD Projekt Red, fabricated that attack? That hack to buy themselves more time for what they knew would be the inevitable delay of patch 1.2.
I think maybe, there's a good... No, of course not. No. If they couldn't... There's no way that time they would have gained would have made any difference to what they were doing in the first place. No, it was absolutely someone hacked them and they stole it. No, of course not.
Yeah, but you also kind of think to yourself that they did it to themselves by... Like we said at the time, it's like, why come out and outline your year plan of saying... Patch 1.1 is this time. Patch 1.2 is this time. Even though it was ballpark, they haven't hit any of them.
It's exactly what they did with the game. But this is what I was saying earlier in the podcast. I'm genuinely worried for the state of video games in general now. They're so big. They are so expansive. They cover all. They're like marketplaces in and of themselves. They're not just like a game on a disc that you sell and someone buys and plays.
Yeah.
And I think we're not ready for. It feels like we're in a transition period where we're not ready. We can't judge how long these things take. And then you throw in COVID or whatever. But when I was a kid, I'd spend my money and my dad would be like, you're not going to have enough money for that thing you wanted at that time, like that video game. And I'd say, that's all right, because I'll save up like the next few months. And he'll say, yeah, but you were going to do that now. And then you spent your money because something came along. And I was like, yeah, but once this is gone, it's fine because then I'll just save up. And he was like, something always comes along. And he's absolutely right. And with video games, it's like you say, yeah, but this won't get delayed because X, Y, Z. It's like something will always come along. You need to account for that. And I think it's what seems what they don't do. They just always say, we'll get it out next year. It's like, you won't. You definitely won't. But there you go.
Yeah. Well. Anyway. Guys, something that definitely won't be coming out this year to something that might be. I don't know. The new Switch model. Now, we've spoken about this before, okay? So, a Switch Pro, Super Switch, a Switch 64, whatever you want to fucking call it, it's a rumor that just won't go away. Confirmed rumor, so there you go. But talk about how we had previously said, or at least I had, that I was super skeptical about 4K as being a capability for a Switch Pro. Well, the confirmed rumors these days is that NVIDIA's DLSS technology could help make that 4K a reality. And the last time we spoke about it, I did say, okay, well, maybe if there's no ray tracing and maybe if there's no anti-aliasing, then yeah, maybe they could get to 4K. But DLSS, maybe a better CPU and some increased memory, some, bandwidth trickery, and maybe it'll all work out. Who knows? But there's also a release window attached to this, which is holiday 2021. No fucking surprises there. But it is rumored to be launching with a host of new games that potentially only the new games can take advantage of the new unlocked resolution, the DLSS. Is it going to be true? Probably. I'm still kind of skeptical about 4K at a usable 4K. Let me caveat that. Because sure, anyone could put out 4K, but if it runs at 5 frames a second, it's not 4K, is it? DLSS is a really cool technology, and it could make it a reality. I can admit to that. But yeah, just a bit of an interesting kind of addition to our Switch Pro discussion. Also, rumored to be $100 more expensive, fellas. What do you think about that?
That's pricey.
It's pricey, but I also think, maybe even know, that I am an idiot. and that if some kind of Switch Pro, a new pumped up Switch came out, especially if it came out alongside a game like Breath of the Wild 2, whatever it's called, I would buy it. So that's probably why they're releasing it, right? Because people like me exist. Where are you guys at with it? Would you buy this thing later this year?
I don't honestly. I've been an early adopter of a lot of Nintendo stuff. I don't necessarily know if I would, purely because of how little I've been using my Switch in the past 2 years.
Right, fair enough.
Even with Breath of the Wild 2 coming out, right? It'll still be playable on a normal Switch, I presume, because it would be mad if it didn't.
At 20 frames a second.
Yeah, well, that's the kicker, right? But like, am I willing to spend $350 for the sequel to one of the best games ever made? Actually, yeah, maybe. I don't know. But I'd need to have a job and I'd need to have the money for it. So at the moment, it's a hard sell. I think for me, you guys are in a different position. PS5 is more front and center than a Switch Pro.
That makes total sense.
Purely because I've got a Switch, right? Like, if I want to play Breath of the Wild 2, I can. Just, as you said, as long as it runs like mud, as long as I'm okay with it running like mud.
I really hope Nintendo are through pulling scumbag moves when it comes to performance of new titles on, theoretically, on hardware they've just decided to make old. Like, to make a piece of hardware redundant or almost redundant just on a whim, I think that would totally suck. So I hope they don't do that.
Yeah.
It's a weird one for me because I think the Switch, one of the benefits of it in Nintendo in general is where the price point is usually means that it can be a system alongside your like main console and you can use it for the portability and everything. As soon as they get to the bracket of like, you know, $350 or whatever, I start to struggle with the pricing there because I'm like, what am I not getting so that I can have a Switch? And like Chris said, my 4-year-old plays my Switch like vastly more than I do. I mean, I barely touch it. So, and he does not give a toss about 4K. So, I won't be picking one up. And even when you're talking about games like Breath of the Wild, that it was a good game, but do I really want to spend that much to play the sequel to that game that I didn't even finish? Like, no, I don't want to.
Madman.
Great, yeah. But then Josie actually makes a very good point, which is that like I was reading some chitter chatter about this on Twitter earlier.
Chitter chatter.
Yeah, between some
chitter chatter on Twitter.
Twitter chitter chatter. Yes, that was harder to say than I thought it would be. It was between sort of like some analysts, but also like there's a guy I follow who works for the MPD and kind of tracks sales and stuff like that. And he was saying initially that he was surprised at the timing of this because he felt as though Nintendo didn't need this at the moment with the way they are,
how they've done,
you know, the trajectory they're on. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. They don't, right? Yeah.
And there was another guy who was kind of talking to him who was basically saying that what happens with a lot of these consoles, and certainly what happened with the PlayStation 4 Pro and the Xbox One X, these sort of halfway generation consoles that are also a step up in performance, is they're actually not designed to increase the install base or the user base of the console itself. They're actually targeted and end up, out of the gate at least, being mostly bought by people who already own one version of that console. And what it ends up doing is it actually makes them more engaged in that console and more likely to stay in that ecosystem and more money to put, likely to put more money into that ecosystem for a longer period of time. And you get an elongated generation where spending is up. But what they didn't talk about is the point that Jonesy just made, which is how many people do you know consider the Switch their primary platform? I don't know anyone that considers the Switch their primary platform. No. It's the B platform for almost everyone, right?
Yeah.
And how surely that's got to have an effect on the likelihood of someone being willing to spend that much more money on a console that, if history repeats itself, they probably already own.
Yeah.
Interesting.
It gets to a weird point as well that because you talk about it as being a docked system or like a handheld system. I suppose they haven't. I mean, I'm assuming it's going to be the same with the Pro. Like it's going to work in the same way.
Oh, entirely.
But then you get to a weird point of like, sure, it's got 4K, it's got DLSS. You know, you can have all these pretty games on it. But if you're then playing it docked all the time, you kind of get away from the only reason I bought it was because it was a mobile system that I could carry around and I could take with me on the train and I could take on I could take to work with me. I could do other things with. The idea of spending, like 350 quid on something that is now like, but you can play it at home 4K DLSS. I'm like, yeah, but I'm not gonna I'm just gonna play it handheld, so it's not enough for me to.
Yeah.
I wonder about the DLSS thing. Would you guys know? Could they patch in the DLSS into older games on that system? So if you've already owned games on the Switch, is that a thing they could do?
According to the rumor, it's only new games will utilize the DLSS.
Right. Yeah, like apparently requires some amount of code that means that old games can't automatically take advantage of it. Yeah. I guess like maybe if someone really went back to an old game and put in the work and released a patch,
maybe
like, potentially, but
you see,
like we love to churn those old titles.
Nintendo, they like to charge more money for them.
That's what I mean. But like, what if they start selling Switch Pro versions of Switch games, full price games, and all they've done is add the code?
But they start using DLSS as like a marketing title. So like instead of like they move on from HD, and it's like now it's like The Legend of Zelda Skyward Sword DLSS.
But that's exactly right, though, right? Because they are just now saying, "Oh yeah, look, we've remastered this, and it's in HD." Yeah. Yeah. And now they're all going to go whole hog on 4K. I'm still a bit skeptical.
I've solved it, mate. Sorry to interrupt you, but because I think you guys were saying rumored to release with Breath of the Wild 2. It's rumored to, I think it's going to release with Breath of the Wild 4K DLSS version. I think that's
4K DLSS, yeah. Hey, look, the only thing that would make sense for me for a Switch Pro, why I would buy it, is not for it to pump out 4K, but for it to be a much more kind of robust system. So even if it targets at say 1440p and then it's the frame rate goes up to like 120, like frame rate is more usable than 4K. Who cares about 4K? Really, let's be honest.
Yeah, especially in something like the Switch for sure.
In terms of when it comes to playing a game, like frame rate, give me frame rate, give me responsiveness.
I'm 95% handheld on the Switch anyway, and it's remaining 720p on there, just with OLED now.
I play it. I play it
and OLED's cool.
I play it handheld.
Yeah. Anyway, guys, we've got to wrap this up, unfortunately. I do apologize. But we need a code word for today, and I think I've got one.
Oh, nice.
Born Again Pervert, the Alex Jones story.
Born Again Pervert.
Sure.
Yeah, I think Born Again Pervert is quite nice.
I like it.
I like it. It's some might say that it's intriguing.
Or intriguing. Fucking hell.
If anyone comments the word intriguing,
you're banned.
I might can you block people on YouTube? Can you stop them watching videos?
Plus we need all the views we can get, so no
banning. I don't care. They're gone.
Also, if people could drop that, what do you call it, Chris? The question mark and the exclamation mark? Drop your interrobangs in the comments. So yeah, let's get some interrobangs on the go.
And there you go. All right. And with that, I hope you enjoyed today's episode with Jamie and Jonesy and myself. And with that, we'll see you perverts next week.
See ya.